everybody, and welcome to the deepest dive on Clair Obscur Expedition 33. This is the best, most thorough discussion about the new RPG on the internet. And this is MinnMax, a place about games, friends, getting better. I'm Ben Hansen, joined once again, mon ami, by Kelsey Lewin.
Woohoo!
And Jacob Geller.
Merd.
we are
you
on it.
You can't say that.
And
you better beat me, Ben.
Haley McLean.
Time for swim.
All right, swim, everybody. This is a big discussion about the middle section of Clair Obscur Expedition 33. We are not spoiling the ending in this discussion. What we're covering in this very discussion that you clicked on is everything in the game from when you get the fourth character, when you meet CL, up through when you deal with both accents. We're not spoiling anything beyond that, but anything in that middle chunk, that is what we're covering in this here discussion. And we have a lot to talk about. And of course, it's all fueled by people on Patreon at patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you support us at any tier, even that $2 tier, you can submit a comment for us to read during this discussion. And if you're at the $5 tier, you unlock the podcast version. Because if you look at this and you say, oh, I want to hear this, but I don't want to have YouTube open, yucko. I don't want to look into Jacob Geller's little eyes. Well, that's what a podcast app is for, everybody. You can unlock the handy podcast version by being at that $5 tier. And we have a special treat for everybody. If you want to directly support independent games media, if you want to give a little tip of the cap and a tip of the coin to MinnMax, we appreciate that, and you'll get something in return. You can join the Discord, which is lovely. You can submit comments for the final discussion on Clair Obscur Expedition 33 for us to read. And also, we will DM you on Patreon with a Steam code for Spirit Swap. Lo-fi beats to match 3 to. Remember this game from earlier this year, Kelsey?
I sure do.
Is the match 3 that's in the vein of like a Panel de Pon or like a Tetris Attack or a Pokemon Puzzle League, and it is the friendliest damn game ever made. And so if you support us on Patreon at even the $2 tier before Monday, May 26th, 2025, we will DM you on Patreon with a Steam code for Spirit Swap, Lo-fi beats to match 3 to. It's a cool indie game. Help spread the word about it. Directly support independent games media. We appreciate that. And it's also available if you upgrade to the $5 tier. If you got the $2 tier, jump up to that $5 tier or upgrade to any tier. We will also DM you a Steam code for Spirit Swap. So shout out to the developers, soft, not weak, for making that whole thing possible. We appreciate it. All right, we like to play a game here on Deepest Dive. We're sick and twisted. We play games with our community and with each other. We play a game here called Most Common Comment, where we got 40 pages of comments from everybody on Patreon there. What do you think was the most? I think Rebirth technically topped it at some point. I have to go back and check the raw docs.
Those were like 90% your questions, though.
Those were, yeah. It was just, and the questions were just like breathing heavily, question mark. But most common comment. What did most people write in about? And by the way, spoilers on for the middle section of this game, to be very clear.
Yep.
I don't know where I'm going.
Said that because we're all going to say stop dying immediately.
I think this is the biggest slam dunk in Deepest Dive history for the most common comment being everybody wanting to talk about the death of Gustav. It was all over the place. Everybody had 1,000 angles, 1,000 thoughts, 1,000 emotions, 1,000 tears. Thane wrote in, by the way, and they say, ending the last episode of the Deepest Dive before the end of Act 1 was very funny to me. And I want to say, Jacob Geller, you're a genius. I love that you stopped it where you did.
It's perfect because now this is such a fun thing to start this conversation with.
It was just like there was going to be, if we had that in the conversation, it would have dominated it. And there was so much to talk about for the beginning. I just wanted to ask if any of the most common comments were, wow, Jacob has a great poker face. Jacob is so good at not revealing plot points by making an expression.
I saw that on YouTube every once in a while, which kind of scared me when people were like, Jacob's nailing it. Like, oh God, what part is he nailing? And like, I guess we did talk a lot about Gustav dying. I remember saying like, oh, he's dying at the end for sure. Like I did not see this coming. But even when people were really teasing it in podcasts, and by the way, shout out to everyone on social media. Maybe I'm not on it as much as I should be to have a rational brain, but like I didn't see anybody being cheeky and teasing this. Like I really had no idea this was coming.
Or showing gameplay where, it would kind of show him gone and Verso there instead.
Nope, totally.
I mean, it's crazy that like Ben Starr is doing all the press for this game, and even then, Ben kept it under wraps pretty well.
No, totally. It was like there was a part of me that was a little suspicious of like, God, Ben Starr's really getting out there. I don't really know who his character is, but I guess I'll meet him. I was like, is he voicing Monaco, what is going on here?
I thought he must have been like the fifth extra whoever, and then Gustav freaking yoked so fast right away, and I was like, oh, okay, Ben Starr's coming in here any second. Sounds good.
Yeah, people were like teasing a little bit the idea of like, oh, some big stuff happened, it gets pretty dramatic, but I did not think that it would be Gustav hitting the dirt this early.
Yeah,
and I'm really glad we did stop it when we did, because I don't think we would have had a chance to really talk through Gustav as a person, as a character, his moveset or anything, because I mean, all of that is just kind of made kind of irrelevant now, and now we get to talk about some other cool characters, and so I'm glad that we got to really give that first part a solid shake.
Yeah. Were any of you suspicious? Like, I was looking at his skill tree, and I remember thinking that idea of like, well, it's like 10 points to unlock his moves. I kind of feel like I'm a little bit choked here. I just need to kind of save up for a bit with him. And I should go in and rearrange his pictos. Maybe I'll get to that eventually. So like there were maybe some hints structurally that he was going down, but like I love the fact that they still build out the entire skill tree. Like it's all there.
I didn't think I mean, and it's like killed.
Myel has some locked stuff still. You know, it's like he wasn't the only person with locked skills. Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that. I also didn't really love his mechanic compared to everyone else's, which felt so, it's just like, oh, I overpower myself and then hit something. That's like 1/5 of everybody else's kit that's also doing 4 other things. You know what I mean? So I was kind of like, oh, it's kind of the lamest one, but oh well. So it's kind of smart that now he's gone. I'm like, I don't really miss it. I have the perfection system and this like Minoko's I change into other monsters system that like just that times, 100, way better.
Yeah, and it is a pretty clean transition from Verso of just like, okay, it's going to be the same weapon. You get the same idea. And he's also like equally kind of the simplest character, I'd say, in combat from Gustav to Verso. It's like, okay, this is a very smooth thing. And even, who was it? Who dared write this in about it? Axel Cordova on Patreon says, Gustav is a character always wanting to go as far as possible for the future. For those that'll walk the path he paves, he brings up this idea a lot, even down to his battle voice line saying, for those that come after us. Verso inherits whatever stats Gustav had, as well as his weapon and his pictos. So if Gustav got to level 99 before he died, Verso would appear as level 99 when you get him.
Whoa,
so thematically
cool.
and mechanically, Gustav set up Verso for success. Verso is who comes after. Yeah.
Okay, so Verso probably the same person. I'm guessing. Yeah, that's like exactly what I'm thinking. I'm not looking at you, Jacob. They have to be the same person. I mean, everyone looks the same in this freaking game.
There's some relation there, but more so than that. I mean, by the time we were at the end of at the stopping point for this, I'm starting to yell at Myel for how often she's just saying blatantly obvious foreshadowing things that, like, we haven't exactly realized the implication of, but like absolutely everything that happens, she's like, this is so familiar. I feel like I've seen this before. Are you sure I haven't seen this before? Why does this seem so familiar? I've heard this song. I'm like, oh my God, we get it. And you're probably Alicia or whatever.
And then when it starts bleeding into other characters like Ciel, like, oh, I think I actually know you a little bit as well. Like everyone is saying it a little bit. Myel is just like, she's become just Dora the Explorer looking at the camera like, do you think I've been here before? Do you think I've encountered these characters again? Why do I know this song? Why do I know this dance? Like, I am, to be clear, really, really loving the game. But in this section in particular, it is just like beating you over the head with, this is a mystery. Don't you want to know what this mystery is? Like, especially that whole section where it's like, Lune is like, but that means that Verso is, and then like cuts back to Myel and Verso goes like, okay, all right, we got it. You got to draw some drama out of it. I get it. Jacob, was it tough to sit on secrets last time? Was there stuff that you really wanted to scream about that you can now?
Honestly, there's stuff that I still want to scream about now that I can. so no, but like I was just more, I was really enjoying having, being able to witness those conversations. And it was, I mean, like, I just think it speaks to, like, this is, it happens much earlier in the game, so I can't call it, like an Aerith level, like, whatever. But, like, you really, I was just so invested in him as a character, you know, and, like, the whole, honestly, I was sad to not have included in last time when he yells, "Get out of my way,"
yes,
which
so
is
good.
maybe like my favorite part of the game, where then immediately that Jestrel's like, "Well, no one even told me the password," and he's like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, I didn't." It's just like I was like, he really won me over for just boring protagonist guy. Which was kind of like the role that he was destined to die in. And so, yeah, I loved him, and I liked how much we talked about him last week, and then, having everyone's reactions now.
Yeah, but he certainly got enough of his magical little moments, even towards the end there, when Esquier and Francois and stuff, when Francois, the little turtle rock guy, was like, ah, like screaming like he's ready to attack, and then Gustav just has this moment of like, okay, just subtle little animations are so good. It's like, all right, I guess we're gonna fight you now, man. But it is, I guess it does make sense how they can get a big actor like Charlie Cox. Like, you have an amazing role, and it's only going to be for like a third of the game, realistically. So you can kind of save some time here as well.
I'm gonna feel nervous every time a high-profile voice actor is in an RPG like this in the future. Now, I'll be like, well, he's probably gonna get Gustav, so they keep the bills down.
I mean, Andy Serkis is still around.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, he's only popping in.
But he's not a party member.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it hit you? I'm not pointing fingers, but Kelsey Lewin is the most emotional person here. Did it hit you the hardest?
As the big crier.
Yeah.
Kelsey Lewin, crybaby extraordinaire. Did you cry?
And don't cry while you talk about it either, please.
I didn't cry when it happened, but I got a little teary-eyed just kind of in the cutscenes following that. I mean, there's a part where like Lune is starting to lose it a little bit, and like that was very affecting because, she is just very stoic the whole game and very logical, and so I mean, it got me a little bit.
Yeah.
The Lune stuff is the only thing that got me too, because her whole characterization is like, who cares? Keep going. She still cares about the people she loves, but she's not going to let it affect the mission. So when she was kind of like, okay, let's keep going, I was like, oh, like that did make me get the closest to crying during this thing for sure.
Yeah, like with so many things, it was like, the reaction from other people to the death is really what got me a lot. Even just like as it's happening, we'll talk about the actual scene itself, but I love when they just cut to the boat and then it's like, okay, we got to fight the lamp boss again on the boat down here in the water. I don't know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I forget if it's Ciel or Lune, who just like, they look up and like, what is going on up there? Then you just hear them go like, and like hearing them just like this panic, that got me.
Yeah.
And then obviously Myel's reaction during the funeral and everything like that. That was the other double whammy.
The little robo arm. Yeah.
Was anybody else kind of doing that math of he can recover? Did you know that the second that he got his first big, gigantic gaping wound in the gut that he was down? Because I was still like, there's a chance he'll come back. Okay, all right. The killing blow. We're done here.
It was, I mean, it's like when they have you do the destined to lose fight against Renoir, I was like, oh, this is very much a last stand. But then actually it was mechanically, when I saw that Verso had his swords, I was like, oh, he's really not coming back. Like if they're giving me his inventory, right. It's game over.
I kind of felt it when, how they had that whole long conversation that's like, if we see him again and I yell run, like do not freaking not run, you better freaking run. And then he says like immediately, run. And then she's just like frozen in that weird bubble thing, which I didn't really understand.
That is, I think that's why it didn't really hit me that hard, is I was kind of just confused. Because like
I also didn't think, and this is going to sound weird, the animation of her inside the bubble just wasn't very, like, she was like kind of pounding on the glass, but the animation just like isn't that good, so it didn't look that like frantic. It didn't look like she was like really pounding on the glass. It looked like she was kind of like, authoritatively knocking on the glass, like, a little bit of force behind it, but
I agree. I've now watched that scene like a bunch of times, and it's like she doesn't seem appropriately panicked. But what I will say, and actually what like gets me on rewatch, is for a game where the characters are constantly covered in blood, they do a really good and kind of unnerving job of like making him look bad in a different way. It's something, it's like his eyes are like really bloodshot. I mean, they look like they're like filling with blood, and it's like it's freaky. And it's like the faces in this game when they are like putting all their money into a cutscene are like really, really good. And there is something about their texturing of him being about to die that just kind of like, he really looks on the edge of death in a way that I feel like I can't remember a lot of other game characters like accurately portraying.
Yeah. I think it was hearing the cane song, which by the way, I love that so much, that Renoir's song is just kind of his cane as the beat as he's walking up. That's such a cool touch. But I didn't
notice that.
Yeah, it's cool. But I was struck by like, okay, Myel's like looking in the cave. She's looking exactly where he's coming from. I was like, I was just confused. Like, is he really there? Why isn't Myel saying anything? She's clearly seeing him walking up. So I guess this isn't real. And then it keeps cutting to black.
She had visions, yeah. So she might have just like, another vision.
Oh, that's interesting.
I think she thinks she's going crazy.
Okay. Maybe she's seeing him all the time in a way. It's like, all right, well, Renoir, nothing to scoff at. So I was just confused about that. And then, the bubble. I'm like, what is the weird bubble thing? I guess you got to take her out of the picture a little bit so we can have the kind of last stand. But...
She needs to like watch it happen, but also run. So I guess bubble was their answer to that.
Right.
I mean, but it was also the bubble is weird, and it also sucks that she breaks out of it like immediately after he dies, because then it's like, well, but it like Gustav needs to also be given the opportunity to run away and not, you know, because that's the agreement that they made, is like both of them were like, yeah, if I see that guy, I'm running. And then you kind of, it's not going to go down that way, but that is like Gustav's most heartbreaking look, is she says run and he turns around and it's just like, he's not, like, he was never going to.
Yeah, I think what also got me after that was just Myel. She's always kind of acted older than she is. She's just so tough. She wants to get in the fight and all that stuff. And I felt like she kind of de-aged 4 years right after he died. Just her simple explanation of like, okay, I know it's not, Lune, I know we're not supposed to stop and bury him, but like, can we please just bury Gustav? Can we just break from the protocol, please? She just seems like her posture, everything just makes her seem something like a little girl, whereas the rest of the game, she doesn't really feel that way. And like that got me. And then on top of that, everybody was grieving in their own different way, but I thought it was just fascinating that like she was having the toughest time. And my read on it was like, are the other characters mourning in their own way, or are they just older and they're used to more gomages and they're almost sadder about the fact that they're not devastated? Maybe that's reading too much into it, but they're kind of just sad about like how commonplace maybe this type of event is in their lives at this point.
That's interesting. I think you're probably right that it's just like they've been bombarded with grief and death their whole life, that even somebody close to them, it's like, well, at least it was for a mission and not just dust.
Yeah, it's like everyone else they were on the boat with died.
Yeah. There's an optional conversation with CL later when you can start like having these, one-on-one conversations with, which by the way, I didn't realize normally in RPGs you have to pick. You don't have to pick. You can have those conversations with everyone. I did not realize that right away. But you have a conversation with CL where she says something to the effect of like, yeah, death, like, because Verso says, you're so calm about everything. She's like, well, death and I have a long history, and she reveals that she saw her husband die, and it was like before his gomage. He like died in an accident several years before he was supposed to be gomaged, and so she's just, she's pretty frank about it. She's just like, yeah, like I've seen a whole lot of death at this point, and that conversation was not specifically about Gustav, but I mean, you just kind of get the sense that as these people who are like 32 years old or whatever, they're like seen a heck of a lot of death in their lives, and they have already buried a lot of friends and family.
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that he died from an accident, and it was almost treated with more of like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. You know what I mean? It's like, someone shouldn't be dying in an accident when we're going to gomage anyway. She said like, we could have had 5 more years or something like that, which is not a lot of time at all, but that hits so much more different because she only gets 30 to begin with. It was just like, oh no, that's horrible. Meanwhile, like everyone else is dying all the time, but I thought about her husband in particular a lot more.
Yeah. Nora writes in here and says, remember when we played Age of Mythology with her? She says, hey, the moment when the party sees images of lost ones, we're jumping way ahead just for this one comment, so I apologize. The moment the party sees images of lost ones before they face Serene made me so emotional, especially when it showed us Sayel's husband and infant child for the first time. Her relationship to grief seems very different from the other party members. The gomage is predictable, even gentle, but her child clearly never lived to reach it. Also, the scar on her stomach, as someone with a C-section scar, I immediately thought of a birth-related injury. Is that when she lost her child? Yeah, I was trying to remember, did they talk about her kid at any point before you see it as kind of the ghost image in there?
I'm trying to remember, and I don't want to, like, how much have we learned about her through Bond conversations?
That husband one is the last one that you can do up to this point.
He asked about her stomach scar, and she said, maybe another time, not yet, haha.
Right.
So
yeah, and she talked about, she's got all that stuff from the kids that she wears to remember them and stuff. Like, she's gotten into her backstory enough to turn my head and be like, wait, is CL the most interesting character in this game? Like, I glossed over her.
Yeah, because I don't use her, so I don't know.
Right.
She's also one of the best, but we'll talk about that in combat.
They're kind of all one of the best.
Get that. I think that, like, I understand that is probably the most broken character that is very fun to break, and my brain's having a tougher time with that one. So
no, it's not even. We'll talk about it. But with that, the Serene hallucinations thing, one of my it's one of my favorite little, like, here is effort parts of the games, because it's like, oh man, we see Gustav again, and it's like silent, but it's just like, oh my gosh, there he is. And, and we see some other people
Lune's parents
who we know.
And stuff. Yeah.
But then it's like, Lune's parents, who we've never seen before, and are like, the fact that they are rendered as well as any other character, right. Like that, it's like they don't look like Final Fantasy VII NPCs. They look like they could be main cast. It just made me like, oh, they were real, in the same way that, like, CL's husband was real, and not like they were tertiary characters in a video game.
Yeah.
For me, what hit me in that scene was we saw Lune's parents, and then I was like, oh, I get to see what Myel's parents look like. And then it pans over to Gustav, and I go, oh, of course. Like, that's her most important person.
What got me is it's like cutting from everybody being like, oh, here's my loved one, here's my loved one, here's my loved one. And then it cuts to Verso, and there's nobody. It's just like, he's pissed. And it's like, okay, I don't know if we're just doing this for the sake of wanting the hero shot of Verso, or if it's kind of a tip of the cap a little bit, or a nod to the fact that, like, Verso's just different from everybody in some key ways here,
I feel like I read that scene as she tries to look inside him for somebody he really loves that he's lost, but because of their weird immortality thing, he's never allowed himself to get close to anybody who's mortal, and then she can't find anything, and then she goes Frow! And like gets mad, and that's when like the fight ramps up.
Well, there's some stuff. Verso, believe it or not, we can unpack this freaking guy for a while.
There's some stuff.
Should we talk about Verso?
We should probably talk about Verso.
We haven't even talked about
he's this guy. But I mean, there's a vision, a nightmare sequence where you see him what looks like stabbing a woman, and much the same way that everybody looks like Gustav, everyone just looks like Myel. Like, every ghost figure that's hanging out with Renoir, I'm like, okay, these are all different Myels. What's going on here? And so he's stabbing somebody in that vision. And then I think it's Esquier makes reference to Julie at a certain point. I think it's like when they buried Gustav. It's like, oh, did that remind you of Julie? And yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's not a spoiler to say that is not Myel. Like, that person that you see in the vision is a coincidental resemblance, because a lot of the women in this game kind of look the same, but like that is a different person to Verso.
Okay, gotcha.
There's no plus size women in France. Wow.
In all of Europe now.
They got one body model and they're used to it.
But
they got the 16-year-old and the 20 and the 30-year-old. That's about
They're just shrunk. She's just a smaller version.
I like the line where it turns out, by the way, Renoir is Verso's daddy. But I like when they're like, hey, why didn't you tell us about that? And he says, quote, because it's private and painful and none of your business. And like, I love that it's just like a larger theme as well. It's like, look, family's complicated. But I love just like how confident he was in that line of like, look, this is brutal. Yeah,
he's probably had that conversation 15 times with other expeditions at that point too, which is kind of funny to think about.
Yeah.
And there's so many, like, in a lot of the bonding conversations, it's him trying to get information about the rest of the expedition and them trying to get information about him, and like neither of them will really give anything up, you know. And there's that one where CL is like, tell me something, and he's like, here's something about my hair. And he's like, no, that's not what I want.
Yeah, well, it was a fun fact that it went white, and then he was trying to get the vegetables to dye it, but they messed up, so there's one strip left that's still white. Like, I think that's good stuff. Or like, I really like the conversation actually with him and Myel, where they're talking about their journals. And I was like, okay, I'll let you read mine if I can read yours, but we both agree that this is really raw and personal and painful. Kelsey, as the most emotional maniac. No, sorry for picking on you again. No, do you trust Verso? How are you feeling about him overall?
I trust that their goals are currently aligned. Like, I don't.
That's exactly what Lune said.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, I think that obviously he knows a ton of stuff that he's not telling people, and you know it. Sometimes when stuff like this is happening in a JRPG, it's like watching Seinfeld or something. It's like, if people would just talk to each other, there wouldn't even be a story here. There wouldn't be an episode. So, like, I get it. I get why you can't just do that. But, like, how has Lune not beaten him into submission about, you know, everything going on in the world at this point? You just have to accept that, like, yeah, well, they wouldn't be able to tell a story that way. So
that is. I mean, I love this section of the game, and those relationship conversations, I think, are like my favorite interactions in the entire game. I think they're all 10 out of 10. But that one made me want to scream because it was so early in getting Verso and him and Lune talk. And she's like, oh my God, I have like 100 questions. He's like, all right, lob them my way. And then it's like basically ellipses, like parentheses. She asked questions for a long time. I'm like, what? This is everything. This is all we want to know. This is like, it's
also have those questions.
Yeah, like, it's like, that is the main thing we have questions about is what was happening, what was the fracture, all this stuff. But like, it reminds me, like in Mass Effect 3, you get like a member of the long lost civilization, the Protheans, and this Prothean just joins your team in Mass Effect 3. And it's like, Liara has spent her entire, sorry to talk about Mass Effect, everybody, but we did the deepest dive on it. But Liara has spent her entire life studying the Protheans based on, like, you know, their fossilized turds. And now she has one in the party and it's just like silent in an elevator. I'm like, wait, talk! This is everything! Just unload all you know, please. So it's like that.
It's like that. You got really emotional about that. I feel like you're the most emotional one on the call.
When it comes to Liara and Mass Effect, I am the most emotional one on this call, I think.
For the Verso being sketchy bit, I've been trusting him, but then when he dipped on Myel and then was like, I knew you'd open the door for her, my gut felt bad during that. I'm like, oh, he just lost like 50 trust points with that one. I'm a little nervous of him now.
Do I just not trust him because he's just a handsome guy that seems like is winning over the women more than he should be? But I'm like, you guys, he's just like weird stepdad. This is going to go bad.
He's the only dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to talk, like, I think that I agree with you. The cutscenes between, you know, individual characters and everything they're gold. They're super well written. I'm mad that they put any amount of romance in this whatsoever. Like, honestly, it's even done pretty well. Like, especially the CL scene where she's just kind of like, want to do it? Like, there's nothing else going on. It's the end of the world, you know? Yep. Like, it makes total sense, but I just care so little about that. And there's this beautiful scene earlier between Lune and CL that is like, I'm not going to say explicitly romantic, but I think it's pretty sapphic. Like, yeah. And that's a far more interesting dynamic than just like some good looking guy waltzed in and
I like now he's the romance. It was like, no way. And then Verso shows up for one day and all the girls are like, oh, okay.
I don't know. I read that as like Lune and CL absolutely had, I mean, it's like, it is like the most obvious innuendo of just like when you came and we spent that time together in the clock tower or whatever. And I just think it's like, look, Lune's deal is she's on a mission and she can't think about anything else right now. And Ciel's deal is she might die any day and now she's super horny and just like wants to bang someone before the end happens. And so I liked that it was like, it's not really a romance, but it is two adults having casual sex before they probably die. It felt, maybe very French, but also like, in some ways actually a more mature version than if there was some sort of like, oh, you have to give Ciel gifts and so then you can go on a date with her.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think it is well done. I just am like I'm just like not interested in that dynamic like as much as, again, just between Lune and Ciel. I think that is a lot more interesting than there's a new guy, so obviously we are going to want to hook up with the new guy. Yeah,
there's definitely a recurring comment from the community about the idea of like, I really like the women in this team and kind of placing you as a center as the guy again. When this guy just pops in, it feels like it's not giving them as much time in the spotlight as it could be. It's weird just to be like, all right, you go from the guy to the guy.
I think in particular. In my mind, she's the leader. So I wouldn't mind if you're her at the camp every time you go to bed and stuff like that. That would feel more thematically correct to me personally.
There is something interesting about putting the player specifically in the shoes of Verso, though, of like you are inhabiting this character who has a mountain of mystery behind him. And it does work just for that basic idea of like you have a motivating reason to talk to everybody because you want to learn about their expedition. They want to learn about you. Whereas if you were just inhabiting Myel, she already knows everybody here. And so just be a lot of her, I don't know, uncovering things she already knew. So I get conceptually why they kind of did it this way, but I also understand that feeling.
I would disagree. I feel like he knows way more about where we're located, which me, the player, knows nothing about. So I feel like I'm more aligned with one of the women than him, so that I could be asking him what the hell's going on, and then just like meeting with my other friends to like increase my relationship because I like them enough that they're good characters.
Yeah, but I think the idea is like, well, if you're Verso, you do get to have 3 conversations where people ask what the hell's going on. Yes. And if you were playing as Myel, you'd only get 1 conversation where you get to ask Verso what the hell's going on. But I feel like it does feel like the game really wants to be an ensemble party game, and yet still does kind of choose a main character. Yeah. Like the cast is strong enough that they could all be equal players, but they're, especially Lune, is like not getting to be.
Yeah.
What if every time you came to the camp you were somebody else? That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Robin Jones writes in on Patreon and says, amazing twists and turns so far. Verso is not my friend, though. He's clearly hiding things. Why has nobody in Lumiere ever heard of the guy that didn't die? That is a weird bit where he's like, I went back to Lumiere for a bit and we built like the dome and all this stuff. And the end.
No, he said he went back like right afterwards.
Yeah.
So these are people who have been dead for decades, not
but
just
you think
like
they would have mentioned, oh, this guy came and left.
That like that would be written down in the history books that like some guy came back at one point.
Yeah.
No, it's like, I think if your whole civilization is 30 years old, you don't have a good grasp of history. Like, I genuinely think it is like, you can't remember anything as a society. No, I mean, like genuinely, they were all born 60 years post-fracture. Like, they don't know anything.
It should be somebody's job to keep track of this crud.
What Haley's getting at is like
showed up.
It should have been written down somewhere that someone came back at one point and then they learn about it in school or whatever. But I don't think like they didn't really know that the expeditions were failing horribly right away. You know, like a guy came back, that might have just been the expectation that like sometimes people come back, sometimes they don't. And so, you know, I don't think he even said if he was the only one that came back. Obviously, there were more survivors from his expedition because Renoir is running around.
He said Renoir came back as well because they built the dome together, I think.
Yeah, because like the deeper lore that is kind of, it's somewhat in the game, and then actually one of the devs has just been kind of like talking about this, is when we were wondering, last week, like how long did it take to figure out what was happening?
Yeah.
They did say like it was like 85, you know, that like before that they didn't know. And Expedition Zero did not go out with the goal of like going to kill the Paintress. They were just like, what's going on out there? You know, we got fractured. Let's go out and come back. And so like him coming back, like, you know, Kelsey said, wasn't notable at that point.
And also, I mean, all the way back at the beginning of the game, Lune chose the spot they chose to land because they knew there were survivors. They were like, that's where the one with survivors landed. So they did know there were survivors at one point.
Yeah, that's true.
They just probably didn't know, like, you know, and his name was Verso and he looked like this. And like, you know, like they just knew that
he looked different.
Yeah. I liked, you know, despite us unpacking so much of it on the last episode, there's still beats that I didn't think of, like Lune in this discussion where she's like, yeah, I was convinced that my parents killed the Paintress. And like, you don't know until the Paintress comes out and paints their numbers. So it's like they had so much time for just being like, yep, mommy and daddy did it. No questions asked. Like, oh no, big freak's getting up again. Okay. What was with that little ghost boy? Do you know what I'm talking about?
One?
There's like 50 ghost
There's
boys.
like
The like faceless stone guy.
Yeah,
there's so many of those.
There's one who says that the Paintress was his best friend. He's like, hey, I know you. I've seen you countless times. The Paintress was my best friend, but then she outgrew me and had more important friends. Was the way he phrased it. Or it's like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yet another person who says, I've seen you before.
Every enemy you fight in the game should just be like, you look familiar. Is this some sort of cyclical thing happening here? Are you still fully in that camp? Does anybody have like other than Jacob, a piece together logic of what they think is going on?
I don't think it's straight up Xenoblade Chronicles 3 anymore, but I do think that like we are obviously going to learn something about Myel. You know, we've already learned that resurrection exists in this game because, I mean, it may just be for Gestrels, but we don't know. Mm-hmm. You know, Noko dies and then they talk about how they can resurrect him and he just won't have his memories anymore. Sounds kind of like what's happening to Myel if she remembers everything kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
You know, so there's clearly some level of that happening. But
then why is Myel special? Why are they like, this runs different? This roguelike game that we're playing in the world of Clair Obscur is different because Myel is coming this time.
I still think she's connected to the first expedition / Verso's family. I mean, I won't look at Jacob, but I still think that she and Alicia look really similar. And also when Verso plays a little song on the piano for her, it's like, I used to play this for my sister. She's like, wow, that sounds so familiar. Like, I mean, it's just...
Yeah, and
it's something like that.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting beat too, where there's a conversation where Verso's asking about her name. Like, why Myel? Where did that come from? Just the idea that he's like trying to still process that. But so what is up with caved in face version of Alicia, the older ghost face? I'm like, is that also...
that's Mom.
That's Mama?
I think that's Mama.
Yeah, that's Mommy.
And
Mommy
you're saying
Myel.
Renoir makes out with that caved in face?
Well, I think
made out with it so hard, her face came down. That's what's happened.
I think his whole thing, because he's talking about, you know, immortality, and he's always like lecturing Verso and everyone else, and just being like, he's talking about how he's trying to make things like something for his family and get them back. And Verso says cryptic things in response about how like you can't do that, it's not gonna happen or work or whatever. And so I think that's like basically like the weird corpse version of his wife that's not a complete person, but he's still trying to figure out how to make that and Alicia and everyone like be a happy family again.
Right.
But
and
through immortality somehow and killing people.
Yeah. So I guess the idea and the stuff that we learn here is that idea that, you know, he wants to keep the Paintress alive because they're immortal because of that. But if they kill the Paintress, then everybody dies. And Verso seems to be on, I don't know, is it fair to call it a suicide run of like, we just need to end this forever. But
do they not know 100%? I feel like they don't know 100% if it's the paintress who's keeping them alive, and they just don't want to risk killing her. Is kind of how I read his like, "What are you doing? You could kill us." Like, kind of like, maybe she's doing this, but they don't really know.
Yeah. Peter G writes in on this sick
Peter Griffin.
Yeah, Peter Griffin writes in the buff
in his Fortnite outfit.
Your favorite. They say, conversation at the campsite before going to the Stonewave Cliffs was SKA. I haven't seen a human since my best friend asked me for help. Gustav says, your best friend is human? I thought Francois was your best friend. SKA, yes. Is SKA confirming that Francois was previously a human in that conversation? Or is it just an SKA riddle and we shouldn't read too much into everything that's happening here?
I think I missed that. Yeah, I
just read that as he's so cute and dumb.
Yeah, reading deep meaning into anything SKA says is like not incorrect necessarily, but also impossible.
Yeah.
I think maybe he just has a lot of best friends.
Yeah. Why not?
He's also best friends with rocks.
He loves those rocks.
But he loses them all the time.
Nim writes in on Patreon. They say, SKA is basically a French version of Baymax from Big Hero 6 mixed with Totoro, and I'm here for it. It's like, oh yeah, it does. Yeah, he does have Baymax energy. That is absolutely a good way of looking at it.
It's that piano scene where he's dancing,
yes,
right?
Yes.
That's one of my favorite, where it's like, I love how it's not, they like don't even comment on it. You know, it's just kind of like Myel and Verso having this kind of lovely conversation while he plays piano, and then they like cut back and he's just doing a little like pirouette.
Let's see. A Christ writes in, not the Christ, so everyone relax. They say, it's so pleasantly surprising to see how many mature relationships are in the game. Both the romantic ones and the friendships. It's rare that we get men with the gravitas of Ben Starr asking their big fluffy friend for a hug because it's all just too much. And I dearly wish we could see more of this in other games. Yeah, it is sweet. Graham
I liked
J.
when he gave him the bandana. That was very cute.
For SKA, yeah. The 33 thing, and he was so, like, that was the thing. It's just like, every one of those little one-on-ones, like, this is the perfect conversation.
And then he just wears that forever in all the cutscenes after.
Yep.
It's like, oh, yay.
Or when him and Minoka, like, do each other's hair, you know, and stylize in that way. Like, this is, again, give each other haircuts. Yes, this is exactly what we want to see in this moment. And it's funny because, like, in the last discussion, I was going to bring up that feeling of just, like, I feel like I need more at camp. I need time to, like, unpack these characters a little bit more because they're more interesting than they're letting on. And lo and behold, they have a whole system for that, which is great. And I can't imagine not talking to everybody. It's like, I guess they were Borgio with, you know, some more moves and stuff, but like, who even needs that? These are the most fun conversations in the game.
Can you romance Lune too? And you just have to not romance Sael first?
Correct.
Damn it. I wanted that more, but I was desperate. So I said yes to the first girl.
Wait.
Yeah, you can romance Lune, but you have to reject CL twice.
Twice?
Oh.
God.
Apparently there's
like
other
someone
stuff
telling
too,
me
but
that you can like play as Toad in Super Smash Bros.
Yeah, Mew's under the truck,
like,
man.
I gotta replay the game.
It is like, it's just the biggest layup prompt ever where it's like, just when you go talk to her, it's like, do you want to spend time with Lune? Is the prompt like, yes or no? It's like, what maniac is hitting no in that situation? Like every one of those, like, yes, please. Speedrunners, absolutely. Let's see. Oh, here's one. Graham J says, I love the childlike wonder that all the characters have about the continent. Like when they meet the Gestrels and they talk about snow for the first time. It truly shows how they have grown up without traditional adult presences in their lives and have kept some more suspension of disbelief. So just like they're... I like it as a read. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that idea of like, that's why they're also charmed by these fantastical creatures, because they've kind of been obsessed with them because there's no adults in the world to tell them stop thinking about stupid Gestrels.
I mean, it's like, even if you were an adult and you went somewhere else and you like saw literal Santa Claus, you'd probably be like, whoa. You know, it's like they maybe thought these guys were fantasy creatures, and like that's why it's so exciting that they see them now.
They had those two little kids in the first area before you leave Oldemir, like dressed up as them, being like, haha, Gestrels are fun. Can't you like say to them?
And they knew what they looked like.
Yeah.
They had the little paintbrush heads.
Yeah.
Nikki B says, SKA might just have dethroned the king of all cosmos for the best video game character ever. He's super thrilled about getting a headband, throws out banger lines like, I'm woo, but I'm also wee, or let's get wet when you jump into the ocean on the world map. And to top it all off, he's filled with wine that he'll throw up for you if you ask nicely.
Oh, that's past
line.
the stopping point.
Oh, well, I guess technically it's kind of like that thing of like if you make your way back to the world
Right
map,
after the
it's
stopping
still...
point, but that's after.
Yeah, that's a fair
the
point.
stopping point.
That's a fair point. I should have made that clear.
Spoilers.
I think I saw that scene because I wanted to make sure it's saved. Definitely just didn't want to keep playing.
That is a gripe. I wish I had manual saves. It freaks me out.
It does freak me out.
Yeah.
Not to have full control over that.
I mean,
I always
it does...
do the like quit to title screen as like my brain thinks that is a manual
Even though
save.
no little icon
closest...
shows up.
Yeah, no, it's the closest
Actually,
thing in my head to a manual save.
There's a way that you can game it a little, which is helpful if you're like doing a hard fight and you don't want to do a run back, even though the run backs are usually pretty quick. But if you just go in, change a character's weapon, and like exit out, it will save then, and then you can change it back, and like that will be your new checkpoint. So if you're like, I'm just gonna fight this guy 20 times until I beat him, just change your weapon right beforehand and then change it back, and it will save whenever you do that.
That's nice. Yeah, Brian writes in, says, I accidentally beat this game 3 times already. Jeez, Brian. So I don't want to join in on the narrative stuff, so I don't spoil anything, but instead, here's some general tips after playing this game 3 times. Number 1, press triangle or Y to bring up the quick menu where you can not only heal your party, but also see a compass. The compass comes in handy for navigating those spaces. 2, we talked about a little bit last time, but yeah, the critical path of every level in the game is marked by lanterns or lights or glowing objects of some sort. It's very useful for navigating. Number 3, mimes do indeed just need to be broken. They don't have the shell buff.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then 4 says, this is annoying, but yeah, swap weapons to trigger an autosave. That's the type of thing of like, I guess that gives the game character, but it's just frustrating, the idea of like just swap weapons.
It doesn't
to
give
save.
it character. I mean, the checkpoints happen every like 45 seconds. This is just like if you want, like,
if you
you
force
never die and go back further than you want.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's just a security thing, you know? Like I wanted to start a new game just to play the intro again. I'm like, well, I want to make sure I'm not saving over my old save if I just want to see that opening again, you know? So that's where it gets a little bit dodgy.
There are a lot of save slots. You can start plenty of new games, but you can't save your game in multiple slots, which I wish you could do because I wanted to do it before like story pivotal moments.
Right.
And you can't.
Gotcha. Mark S says, between this and 1,000 Times Resist, I'm starting to wonder if I'm cursed to have my favorite game every year be impossible to navigate. The open world exploration isn't bad, especially with SKA, but the fact that there's no minimap or anything within the levels feels genuinely irresponsible.
That pisses me off to no end.
You still can't fast travel in the overworld, right? You have to just get on SKA and go through this entire enormous map to go find. Okay.
We talked about a rock called Sorry, which I can only imagine allows him to fly. Slash, didn't we see in the trailer him flying at one point?
That sounds
flying
familiar.
is still like you still have to navigate that whole map, and like that. Right after doing this, I wanted to just go do some side stuff, and I was looking at the map, and I'm like, okay, there's still some like sections that I haven't, they're still grayed out and everything. Let me just go exploring. And I was like, man, it takes me like 15 minutes to get to the other side of the map. Like, this is it. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's like it feels so far away for me to get back to the main path now after just kind of going off and doing some side content.
Yeah.
It's a little
devil's
frustrating.
advocate, there's a lot of interesting hidden stuff on the map that you probably wouldn't run into if you were fast traveling back and forth. Because there aren't like a bunch of icons that are like, here's this and this. Like, even after going through places that I had been through a couple times, I would find new things or be like, oh, here's that chromatic guy that was too hard for me before, but now I can probably fight him.
Right.
Oh,
Except if it's that bouncing head guy. Screw that guy.
Visage or whatever his name is.
Where it just bounces over and over and over again.
Oh, yes. Okay. I tried to fight that guy. Do you have to parry or he just goes forever? How do you...
I think it's like a gimmick fight that you just have to live through it.
He kind of just goes forever either way. I mean, it's like, well, you can get your speed up really high, but it's like, just wait. Like, he is deceptively high level.
Okay, yeah, because I never got to take a turn. It just kept saying it was his turn over and over again. And okay, all right. Well, I'm glad I didn't try too many times on that one. The other one that I want to go back to that I failed at when I tried to do it was like the one where the walls are closing in on you. Do you guys do this one?
No.
It's like sapling or something. It doesn't like I was making a decent dent in this optional boss, but the walls close in on you. Huh?
Was it the Queen of Sap? Was that it? Who it was? That woman hanging upside down? I could interact with her, but I couldn't fight her.
No, and that is part of a different thing. You have to talk to a weird faceless little boy and then talk to her. And then talk to the boy again, and then you fight an optional boss that's a pretty fun one.
This is the giant. No, I didn't find this guy.
That's the falling leaves area. Yeah, the one with the walls closing in on you. You basically only have 4 turns, and when I did it kind of at the beginning of part 2, so I am gonna try to go. Can't remember where he was. I'll try to figure that out again, and go back and try to fight him because it was like. It was a good fight. You have to be strong enough to be able to take something out in 4 turns because that's all you get.
Right. Lewis K says, I immediately tried to access the Painteress as soon as SKA could swim and was delighted to get a cutscene before we did the Axons. It's a really nice touch for a very small number of players if you do want to try that.
I saw this too. It's a funny cutscene. It's essentially just like, Lune's like, I'm going to touch this wall. And first I was like, go ahead. And she's like, ow. And he's like, yeah. And then they just like cut back to going back into the world to try to get the axes.
Yeah, they just say like it's so dense with chroma. Is that the basic gist? Like someone was confused about that idea of Brandon S saying, what's the origin of the barrier around the Painteress? Is it simply a plot device or something more interesting? What is going on here?
Verso says that if you try to get close to her, the chroma is so thick you will disappear. Or be erased or something like that. And that's the whole we need to go find the heart thing. And then Lune's like, what does the heart look like? And Verso says, I got no clue. that's where you start.
Chroma's just kind of a word that is thrown around that I am still not fully clear on like exactly what it means, but it does often function as like, plot armor.
Chroma.
There's a lot of chroma around here.
Yeah. Jack Smith says, to follow up on your questions about the Lumina converter last time, there's a journal for Expedition 34 you can find in an area west of Visages, which confirms my theory that it's used to convert Pictos into Lumina. I can't imagine doing any of the crazy stuff with builds without it, so this must be 33's plot armor. Apart from Verso's immortality, actually, when he worked with the other expeditions, why didn't they just throw him at the stronger Nevrons and hightail it out of there? Yeah, there's that whole conundrum of like he's invincible unless he's in combat, and we can't revive Gustav when it's out of combat, but that's just good JRPG storytelling. You just gotta wince and roll with it. I did love the idea of like after Gustav died, I think Lune was the first one just kind of like, okay, Expedition 32. Look, if we get info to the Gestrals, they can actually relay stuff to them. I love that idea of immediately pivoting for like, we got backup in a year, folks. We got backup in a year, which I hadn't really even considered up until this point. But like, let's put plans in place. This is our best shot here, is just try to relay what we can to the next team, which is coming right around the bend.
All 12 people who are coming next year, they're going to do it.
And if we just hold back Renoir so he can't slice their heads off immediately, then everything will be golden. I guess, going back to that beach scene, Renoir's just really strong because he's had a long time to train and slice heads off. The end. But why were all the monsters attacking with them, I guess? If it is just that idea of like he doesn't want the Painteress to die because he wants his family to live forever, like what was with the Death Stranding beast and all that stuff that were also...
He's got to just be able to like control Nevrons or have Nevron friends or something, right?
I mean, have you gone back? Like, you can go back to that beach.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Yeah, and it's accessible at this point in the game because you just swim, but it's like when you swim all the way back, basically you are heading towards the Eiffel Tower and then go around, and there are a bunch of those like hand guys there from the opening cutscene, and they are really hard. And so it's like maybe ever since Expedition Zero landed there, those guys are just like Death Eaters and hang out at that beach and are like really hard to kill. But like Yeah, they're just there, and you can go, and I did kind of like I just kind of kited them around because there are items, but like they were too hard for my party at the time, and so I just got, Lune, who seems faster, even though I think everyone is the same speed, to kind of like pull them out and run around.
Perfect. Andy D writes in on Patreon. They say, I love the detail that if you go back to where Gustav was killed, you can find the Gustav record with his theme on it. Listening to it back at camp was nice closure for our time with him. That's very sweet. I hadn't thought of going back there. And then,
why didn't he have that all the times I was at camp and it said no records to play, huh?
He was hiding it. Anthony Botts says, we hate you, Gustav. Give us your music, you old man.
Glad you died.
Anthony Botts says, I returned to the end of this map while hunting skills for Minoko, and I found Gustav's music track for camp. When I picked it up, I thought that Verso said Gustav solemnly, and I was really touched. But then the subtitles clarified he said good stuff in celebration of looting treasure.
I like the idea of Lune being like an advantage when you pick up his record.
It never stops. Porn Curly writes in and says, picked up my 1000th color of Lumina. Lune says, interesting. And I say, no, it isn't.
I only just started actually using those and purchasing them and stuff. I mean, obviously it's quite important, but so many of the skills you get early on are just like not that interesting. So like, you just kind of are like, okay, if I don't apply 20% burn on a marked target or whatever, like fine, but we're starting to get to the point where there's a lot of like, I now have like a regen one on every single person. By the way, if you're not great at this game like I am, if you're not great at parrying, there's a really good picto you can put on everyone, which is gain an AP every time you're hit, not per turn, every time you're hit. So if you just are a tank, you can just rack up 9 AP every single turn. It's a really good strategy, actually.
Where
to
would
just
you
stop
say,
caring about parrying.
Do you remember where you got that picto? If I had to take some notes?
I'll figure it out for you.
Okay.
I don't remember.
It's pretty main path,
early.
I think.
It's like on the main path. Yeah.
Okay, gosh.
Yeah.
Maybe I got it. I just haven't dug through enough for it. But I even just like getting, AP for dodging. I'm like, I'm pretty set. It is nice when you just look down and be like, oh God, I'm riding nines down here for AP. All right, this is working out well.
Riding nines. Great phrase. Riding nines.
But when you can like put everyone's, 8 AP skill on them, like their whole thing is just nothing but high AP stuff, and it just works out for you. No better feeling.
I mean, let's talk some strategy, like because there wasn't enough really in the first one to talk about it, but like you can put a lot of those energizing. There are like multiple energizing start pictos that you can get and put on people, and so eventually you can be starting people with like 7 AP before they've even like attacked or anything. I really liked it, kind of the opposite of the regen, but you can get one that's like you take 50% damage, but you can't heal. And then there's another one that's like you can't heal, but you do 30% more damage. And so it was like, well, I already can't heal. And so I had like thrown both of those on Myel. And then she was really tough because she took 50% damage and was doing way more damage. And like once you start, I mean, like Myel is just the like nuclear bomb of your arsenal if you're using her correctly. And so it's like having both of those on her and then giving her a good first strike, or just like letting her get that, like the thing where it's like if the target is marked you do extra damage, or like if the target's burning you do virtuoso, and then if the target is like burning you stay in virtuoso or whatever. You can just gear her up to obliterate folks.
You can do a thing with her too where like you can break all the enemy's shields in one turn, and then also apply all of those shields to yourself with a picto you pick up.
Ooh,
so
I
like
got that second
you can
one.
So if you want to make Myel extremely tanky like that, you can give a bunch of like free hits on her, which again, I'll give you 1 AP if you're doing my build. It's a very this game is very, very good at making you feel smart and like you've come up with the perfect little broken trick on your party. And you know, like they knew that they've said explicitly that that's what they want you to do and how they want you to feel. They know they're doing it, but
right.
I still feel very smart.
Yeah, of course, break it. I mean, Bobby S says, Myel is a well-written, complex, and beautifully acted character, but I don't think it could be overlooked that her competency in combat has made me just as connected to her as anything else in the game. Like the fact that she is kind of the powerhouse in combat. It's like, all right, I'm obviously going to love this little girl.
Around this point, my favorite, like, built person became Verso because you can get that sword that basically gives him another turn, or it's like if you do a basic attack, you just get another turn. And so what I did was you get that picto that's like adds another strike to your basic attack, where instead of doing 1, you're doing 2. And then you can get a picto that gains like more AP per basic attack. And so if you're hitting twice, you're actually gaining 4 AP, and then he gets to go again. And so I would have turns where I would like start at 8 AP, shoot a guy 3 times, go down to 5, attack twice, get up to 9, and then be able to use like his most powerful skill. And you can do that just consistently because he's gaining so much. And so it's like that's
sort of at least like rank B at that point, right? After hitting them that many times.
Yeah. And it's like, even I think at like, you know, the higher levels, that sword is like, it gives you more mastery on basic attack or whatever. But like, you can just have his attacks are not that powerful compared to some of the other characters, but like I had him just like topped up on AP almost every battle, and then he could do his big like, you know, multi-hit every enemy, or give everyone powerful, or, you know, like whatever his strongest skills are.
Nice. Yeah, a lot of comments talking about like, oh, he's just a DMC character. Like the ranking thing obviously puts it front and center, but obviously I understand why it's appealing to you, Jacob, on that front. I'm using him. I'm using Myel and still Lune, and I still feel bad about like I should probably swap to some of these other guys every once in a while, because I feel
it's hard to swap when you get your good build going, though. You're like,
I know
exactly.
Arrange this.
I understand that Minoko is probably like super fun and super interesting to play, but I just don't know who to replace with him, because I'm like, I really like my party and I really like everything I have going with all of them, and so I'm like, I don't know. I just feel bad. They're not getting any. No one else is getting any use. But
when I got Minoko,
Typhoon on Lune.
Oh yeah, Typhoon's great.
Typhoon's like that's a really fun one. It's does ice damage to all enemies at the start of every turn, and does a little bit of healing to your whole party at the start of every turn.
Oh my god!
And there's pictos that give you increased healing anytime you're healed. So just at the start of every turn, everyone gets a really big heal.
Awesome. You'll be set. Like the Minoko thing is tough because it's like it's a slippery slope of like once you start not using them a little bit, then it's like, well, as Gustavo A wrote in about, like you got to have him in your party to collect those frickin' legs so that he can get the new skills. So it's kind of just at a certain point, it's like, well, I don't have enough cool stuff for him, so maybe I'll get to him eventually. But every time I have used him, or like, you know, my party wipes and he's thrown in there with CL, it's like, oh, he's really doing some damage. He's no slouch. I think I could have a great time with this freak. And normally I love the freaks in RPGs, so I should probably give him more of a chance.
I think he's my strongest, low key. I'm doing Lune, Minoko, and Myel. And I kind of have Lune and Myel working in tandem, where Lune is like a fire build, so she has the item that lets fire, the weapon that lets fire skills cost 1 AP less. And then she's super tanky. I got this Picto early on that when she has it equipped like as a Picto, she has 2,000 extra health. And then she also regens 10% health every turn. And she doesn't die. It carried me throughout like both actions. It was crazy. She just never died. I just revived everybody over and over until they were leveled up with her. But so she burns everybody. Then it makes it really easy for Myel to stay in her Verso stance, however that's pronounced, sorry.
Yeah.
But then what I kind of did with Minoko, which was really fun, is he kind of is like, he's supposed to die over and over, is kind of how I've built him. So like, he has this thing where he stabs himself, and then that just like she pulls out her sword and he swaps it back and forth. So I got that skill. It does so much damage, it's insane. It usually kills everything first hit. I don't even have to care about it. But if not, I have it so that when he dies, he like explodes and does a bunch of damage. And then whenever he gets respawned, he has powerful immediately. So then the next time he does that hit, he's already stronger. And the off chance he doesn't die in the in-between, I have another skill that he does like more damage if he's like the less health he has. So I like need him to be weak all the time. And it's kind of fun to like not care if he dies. I'm like, oh, there goes Minoko. I'll just bring him back. He's even better now. It's like more fun. But he's my heavy hitter for sure, especially where every hit can only max be 9,000.
Right.
He has a lot of like 5 hits and they're all 9,999. He's like,
oh my God.
It's just like destroying them. It's awesome.
Yeah, Thick Running the Cheese has a similar strategy. They say, I'm not a fan of blue mage type characters, so I decided to turn Minoko into a living bomb. He dies immediately on battle start, does 6 fire debuffs, massive break, and 10,000 damage to all enemies, and gives the whole party a bunch of AP. I either use him in the main group to quickly wipe regular enemy packs out instantly, or in the back group with CL, who's decked out with solo Luminas that can clean up any fight I'm losing. The level of customization in this game is amazing. It is a lot. There's a lot of systems overlapping with each other that you can handle here.
And it is, I mean,
it's me. I gotta do a Minoko build. That sounds fun.
I mean, the thing about Minoko is he can be any build, because like eventually you just get so many skills for him that he can do, he can be the tank. I had him set up as like he's the guy who breaks enemies, and like all of his skills were like really good at doing break damage, and then he would like get a bunch of stuff when an enemy was broken. There's actually a weapon, though it might be a little later on, that's like when you break an enemy, you immediately switch to his like almighty mask, which is when like all of the skills are good. But yeah, I had him by the end of the game, I had him set up as like he was just the one that was buffing everyone, because he has like really good, he just kind of has like skills that are like, yeah, everyone gets like 2 random buffs and it costs nothing, and like he can do whatever you want in a really fun way.
Yeah, it's just so fun to have that blue mage anomaly in the party. Like, reminds me of like Gao in Final Fantasy VI. For all you Gao nuts out there, like it's like, all right, you can have the wild card. It's going to be a weird experience, but it can really, really pay off with, what was it, White Wind? Help me, Chad. What was Gao's amazing healing move? Let's see. People are outraged. Moonsbros says, the game balance has really fallen off here in Disc 2. I love they call it Disc 2. In Disc 1, the difficulty was perfectly tuned, so I had to engage with the game and its systems. If I didn't learn the parry or dodge timing, I would die. Now in Disc 2, my party is so insanely overpowered, I can easily beat everything in one turn, including bosses! I still love the game, but I wish I was able to keep up the difficulty curve that I had in Disc 1.
I think I'd rather it feel this way. I get that complaint, but I would rather be like, I'm so good at the systems, I'm breaking it.
Yeah.
Feeling than level scaling based on how strong you are, which never feels good.
Well, and there's still just so many optional bosses scattered throughout the world that are like impossible right now that I don't feel, I just feel like I have gotten good at the game, and that there's still a bunch of other like really difficult challenges out there, and I'm enjoying those challenges too. Like I cannot figure out the bouncing guy, and maybe never will, but like most of the other ones like are actually kind of hard, and that is still rewarding. So I don't know. I don't want it to be hard the entire time, like on the main path. I'm glad that I've been able to stick with playing on normal, and am at a point now where it's just like, okay, I've built around how I want to play this game, and now I'm a lot better at it.
Yeah. Bino writes in with a comment for you, Kelsey, saying, every RPG needs to implement the system from Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, where you can manually down-level your characters if you want more of a challenge. That is such a wild system I didn't know existed in that version of that game, but
yeah,
why not throw it in there, I guess, if you really want to.
And I do think it's the game's biggest flaw is just like it gets impossible to keep your character's power scaling in check, and it will continue through the rest of it. That just like, if you're doing the optional stuff, which is really fun and everyone should do, the main path just gets like trivially easy.
Yeah, and that is
like
true
that,
in a lot of big games that have big, difficult bosses. I mean, for another Xenoblade example, all Xenoblade games have, looming in the distance, or even maybe like scarily close by, you'll walk by a giant thing that's like 40 levels higher than you. You probably can't take it down when it's 40 levels higher than you, but when you're like 15 under, like if you really, really are playing perfectly, you can. And then yes, by the time, I put 160 hours into Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and that ending boss was like, I just wiped the floor with them. It like wasn't a challenge and it wasn't fun, but like the rest of the game was,
Right. I was amazed. I think it's in the Visages Axon dungeon thing where you're running through and it's a bunch of just flying enemies. And I was like level 30 maybe entering that space. And it's like, I could just shoot them all immediately. Battles took like 10 seconds tops. And then I got 47,000 XP.
In the Serene area?
Yes. It was, yes. I'm sorry. It wasn't Visages.
All
yes,
the
it was the Serene.
Yeah, I did the same
unbelievable.
thing. I think I started that area at around level 30 or level 31, and I was in the 40s by the time I left that area. And I think I only like intentionally did any grinding for like one rest. Like I did like one rest and was like, well, let me just kill them all easily again real quick. Okay, another level and a half for everybody. Great.
And then they kept dropping the stones to like upgrade to, the weapons, which is like, this is a ridiculous spot to grind if I ever wanted to. Yeah. People jumped up to like, you can go to the snow area up north instead of finding the accents. And a lot of people did that. And then they said they were just completely over leveled by the time they went down and did the 2 accent dungeons.
That snow area is really fun because it's really high level, but most of the enemies there have really predictable attacks. And so I like stayed there long enough where I was just like, okay, I know the rhythm of these. And so I was able to kill enemies that were, know that nothing has level numbers, but like 10 levels above me or something, and would get 1.5 level ups per battle.
Oh my god.
And just being stubborn enough to like stick there and learn it was like, okay, now I'm getting good enough. And then I got to like the final boss of that area and couldn't even, the first attack would just take me out every time.
That's
but like
fun.
Just sticking in there enough to kind of do some of the regular battles was really fun, and was, the thing that this game is good at, which is like, if I just learn this attack and these guys basically have 2 attacks, I can get through this, even super underleveled.
Yeah, Tanner W is totally with you, saying, I don't remember which area it was specifically, but the chromatic boss that just kept taking turns over and over again, so you had to learn to parry its moves, was my favorite fight of the game so far. I lost 2 of my characters to the eraser move pretty early, and so I had to really lock in with the last one. It felt so good to beat. I really felt like by the end of the section, I was hitting 50 to 60% of my parries. Not quite Sekiro Master levels, but we're getting there. That is, the sweet spot, I feel like, where it's like, I just know this animation so well. I know exactly what they're going to do. And when I can kind of get in the groove, I feel like a god. Michael Lane says, I wanted to refute something Kelsey brought up in the first episode when she mentioned shooting outside of combat and how kind of pointless it was. They say, just that 1 to 2 seconds of time in which an enemy is stunned after being shot has allowed me to get the first strike on nearly every encounter. I highly recommend shooting every enemy as you run up to them before trying to strike them, which I didn't even realize.
I guess I just have never, I haven't really failed getting the first strike.
Yeah, that's
without
true.
doing that.
Humble brag.
Yeah, Also, let's refute another thing I said in the first one, which is that I thought the Gestrels were speaking French. Apparently, look, I don't speak French. I picked out a couple of French words that were happening
garbled.
in that.
Yeah.
Apparently, it is actually just a nonsense language that's got pieces of French and Italian and lots of other things in it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You're safe. How are we to know?
It's not
There
our
were a
fault
lot
that
of
your
French
language
people-
sounds like something a little troll would speak. That's
There were a lot of French people very mad at me in the comments. Sorry, guys.
Tanner H says, hey, I just experienced one of my biggest gaming goofs with this game by not realizing towards the end of the battlefield section that I hadn't actually swapped in any of the skills I'd been unlocking. I guess I just expected a third screen would appear at some point in combat, and I didn't think of it. I could have been using Myel's skill that breaks all the shields. I wish these menus were better.
A good one.
That is an amazing one. When they have just like 9 shields up there, and it's like, all right, I guess I'll just ping, 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 putting pucking away, but then just that one skill from Myel, like, get the hell out of here with that crap, please.
Well, Monoko has an even better one where he can hit underneath the shields, and however many shields they have increases the damage. So if they have like 9, he's underneath their shields like, swat, swat, swat. And they're like, oh, and then you just kill them without even having to break the shields. So even if it doesn't kill them on his turn, I would use Myel after to break them, and then she usually would finish them off with the final hit.
Oh, God. Oh, God, no. Fate writes in and says, sweet Jesus, no, their shields. They say, I get people trying to say that you can create defensive builds, but I think it's bad design just to make things artificially longer to engage with the turn system. The system is at odds with itself wanting to be an action game more. As a turn-based lover, it feels like I'm not this game's target audience anymore. So did you guys feel that it's kind of leaning towards defensive builds? Or is that just one strategy here?
I think that's just one strategy. There's so many Pictos that are like parrying specific, which are inherently not defensive strategies.
Yeah, all of my characters could be 3-shot at any point in the game, and I was just like, I'm parrying or dying. And then battles were over really quick because I parried.
When I said that Gustav's death was the biggest, most common comment, this might have been second, where one Chris C, might be Christopher Columbus, your boy, Haley, they say, has anyone else unlocked the best way, the Home Alone director, of course, has anyone else unlocked the best way to use CL? Is she secretly the best character, but I don't know what I'm doing? Help me. And then everyone replied to that comment like, okay, here's what you got to do with CL.
I got to go read that because I will admit I've tried her like 3 or 4 times and I always put her back on the back bench because I feel dumb trying to figure out her thing. Yeah. I just want to look at Monoko's wheel and be like, wee, spin the wheel. I landed on agile. Yeah, I could use an agile move. That just makes more sense to me.
Who are you, SKA? Wee. So I'll run through these. So Xavier P writes and says, use Luminas that give CL extra AP from the start. Use Focus Foretell and then get her into Twilight immediately. With extra AP from the start, you can use high-level skills to keep her in Twilight and do massive damage starting turn 3. Crandall says, CL never leaves my party. I use the weapon that gives full foretell to enemies per sun attack. This does make her take double damage, so I pair with the Lumina that halves damage. Oh boy. And first strike, so she's my first character to play. Start with the Card Weaver to apply full foretell to all enemies, then get a second turn. Second turn, I'll use a moon attack, a moon attack to deal crazy damage, or use Plentiful Harvest to give the party a ton of AP. The latter lets the rest of my party start with the high AP cost attacks, rinse and repeat. Still a bit of a glass cannon, but she's the character I have the most fun with. You want me to keep running with these?
I'm playing this game and understood all of that, and it still felt like you were just speaking French very quickly.
Here's speaking gestural.
Here's my version of playing as CL, which is actually different, and it's been funny to see everyone being like, she's the strongest character. She has 2 skills, which I think are maybe the 2 best skills in the game. One of which is has a character, gives the character double damage on their next turn. And she has another skill that's character plays immediate, where she can just like, it can be her turn and she's just like, it's Myel's turn now. And no matter what was coming up, Myel plays. And if you manage to get her speed high enough or something that CL is just playing twice in a row, you can be like, Myel deals double damage, Myel plays now. And just like, kind of give someone else the ability to destroy the battlefield. And it's like she has a bunch of like, oh, you can juggle her stacks and do Twilight mode and whatever, or she can just be a really, really powerful support character, which is what I was usually having her as, of just like directing even more energy towards Myel so she could just destroy everything.
It is interesting that every character other than maybe Myel can be a support character. Like you can, if you read their skills, like you can build almost everyone into a support character if you want to, even if it's not really like what they were meant to do. Like even Verso, you can do heals and do things where he like takes everybody's status effects and applies it to himself and like just weird stuff like that. Like everyone can be support. It's strange.
Yeah. Myel has that move that boosts burn or fire attacks for 2 moves. That's something.
Oh, wait, that's a different one. Yeah. That's what I used with her with Lune, because I had the thing on Lune that any burn she afflicted was doubled. So then I would do wildfire and everyone would have 6 burn. And then I'd get that up, whatever, and then I would use combustion with Myel, and she hits it, and then whatever burn up to 10 is underneath them just explodes, and they're just like, everyone always died. I don't think it's any characters walked away from a combustion that I've used yet.
It is funny when that kind of builds up where like, I'm not a big systems guy, and so maybe I should be better about tracking all this, but like, do you all have those moments too of just like, whoa, what is going on here? Suddenly this damage is out of control. And I understand that there are systems overlapping to make this happen, but even like something when burn is just like out of control. So is that a weakness, or am I accidentally triggering sick other things that are making this explode?
I really like the Lune skill where she does fire damage to everyone, and it just keeps repeating, and the more turns you can do it in a row, the higher the damage gets. And it's like if she gets hit, then she gets stunned, so it's kind of like a high risk, high reward thing. But what's fun about it is like when it's her turn, you don't even press anything. Like she just like jumps into the air and comes down again and does this giant fire blast, and every time it's doing more damage to everyone on the field. And she can really like, she has some just absolute like crowd control. You know, she has a lot of attacks that hit everyone and do a lot of damage to all parties.
Mm-hmm. I like that she also is like in the game, like not just in combat. She's like an atomic bomb. Like that's how you end up taking down Serene in the end, is like she just gets onto Serene's hand and then just like detonates like a bomb somehow.
Well,
and
like a Trent
just,
Reznor track plays.
Why aren't you doing that?
It is, yeah. I mean, this is, I guess, getting back into narrative stuff of like, yeah, what is going on there? People were asking about that idea of Dr. Ock saying, what exactly did Ciel and Lune do to defeat the Axons? Like, Ciel throws away a mask and is somehow able to resist its influence. Lune glows for a bit. I'm not understanding what's happening here.
That was a very like power of friendship ending to the.
That was giving My Little Pony.
One.
Yeah,
yeah. That was like, this mask can't hurt me because I'm me, and then
I already know myself.
Okay, but can we talk about for the next 45 minutes when the masks are flying onto everyone, and then there's that 3-second shot of just the masks hitting Minoko in the face and bouncing off.
Yeah,
I wrote that one down.
Like, I couldn't believe how willing they were to puncture their serious moment with like a funny shot. I was just like, yes.
I really love Minoko.
In general, we have not talked about him yet, but he like I was laughing my butt off like throughout his entire introduction. He is just he's got like the best just dry humor. And like I'm trying to remember what.
Well, even when he like hits himself in the face immediately with the spear, it's like, okay, he's
where he's like, ladies want to fight, and then like pops himself in the face.
By the way, real quick, I do love too that his spear like cuts in front of the UI. You know, like when you're in combat, it's like on the other side of everything. Yeah, it like covers it up. Yeah,
I never noticed that.
Yeah, Verso's trying to convince him, like, hey, buddy, like, why don't you come with us? We're gonna do this really dangerous thing. And he's like, no, that's crazy. We'll all die. That's a stupid idea. And he's like, there's gonna be a lot of fighting though. And he's like, okay, oh yeah, I'm in. Yeah, like immediately, like, oh yeah,
very charming.
Right. I like fighting. Perfect.
Yeah, all of their little one-on-one interactions of just kind of. It feels like, if Chewbacca could talk to Han Solo, I guess, in a way that we could all enjoy for once. Is it too much to ask for subtitles on Chewbacca, Jacob? But it's just like, clearly, like, they just go way back. They've had so much tragedy. Clearly, they've had expeditions together in the past that have not gone well. But it's still like, okay, you're my buddy. All right, let's fight together. This is pretty sweet. It'll be nice and competitive.
What I think the tone that felt fresh there was the fact that we did know Verso very well, and all of a sudden we get to see him talk to somebody he knows really well.
Right.
Which felt very like, this is a unique experience in like a game / even in movies and stuff. It's like, who's this guy? Oh, there's his best friend. Oh, they seem to get along. It made me learn who both of them were quicker than if they just sat there and was like, my name is Minoko. I'm a Gestrel from the Gestrel village, blah, blah, blah.
Even if he's whispering and going up to SKA and Minoko all the time, be like, don't tell him about the you-know-what. This is still secret, right, big old guys? Yeah, don't worry, we're cool. We're not talking about the obvious here. Cody read in, saying, why did Minoko's theme go so hard?
Yes.
Insanely hard.
Literally, the first note of this song, I was edge of my seat, like, what have we here? Let's soak
My
this one
partner
in.
came into the living room because he recognized, he's played through the game, he's already beat it. He recognized Minoko's theme, came into the room and went, yeah, best song.
Yeah.
Did you guys have what I assume is a bug? The music just stopped
Yes, I had the
completely
same
for me.
one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I was
Didn't happen to me.
distraught. It was odd.
Stopped halfway through the fight, just completely unceremoniously, like mid-song, and then just never came back again.
Yep. Here's the Minoko combat theme here, so we can make up for the bug. Just the first note.
I like to imagine that this is what was on that guy's SoundCloud when they found him. It was just this song, and they were like, he's a genius! He can do anything!
We'll take it.
Can we say with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth last year, this is another song that kind of has bow wow wow
Yes.
in it?
It does.
Because it sounds like it's going like pow wow wow wow.
I guess so. Close enough. Yeah. Just the idea of focusing like on the bass this much, the sax this much, like, god damn it, it's so good. And by the way, shout out to Sandfall for apparently making every correct call possible with this game. But one of them is their YouTube channel, Sandfall Interactive. They uploaded all of the music like weeks ago. And if you look at just sort their YouTube channel by the most viewed, it is like a landslide for the Sandfall of just all of the music has just been listened to millions of times at this point. It's like, of course.
I've been listening to it. It's also all on Spotify. And it's like, I mean, the complete soundtrack, which they uploaded all of it, is 7 hours long.
Perfect.
Like it is like the Final Fantasy VII, like we have 8 discs of music. Like it just keeps going.
I will say I was a hater strong, but I came out here swinging on the soundtrack. I said I didn't love it. Remember when I was in your chat, Ben? I said,
remember.
hot take, don't love the soundtrack. I was dumb. I'm sorry.
Well,
Like to get in front of the allegations that I'm a hypocrite because this is, in fact, a very good soundtrack. There was just that one song I didn't like that I happened to listen on repeat for like 2 hours, and I was sour about it.
you might not be under attack after all, Haley, because Lafuedo writes in and says, I feel like I owe Haley an apology.
Oh my god, maybe I rescind what I just said.
You can join
What
Lafueda
did they
in
say?
hell if you agree with them. They say, the overworld theme in Act 2 with the wailing vocals is really starting to grate on me when I'm out exploring the world.
There's certain ones where it's just like 1 or 2 words just gets looped with like nice music in the background, but it's something the way my brain's wired is all I can just hear is like that sound over and over to the point that I'm like, turn it off. Enough. I'm mad at it. But then like the Minoko theme comes on. I'm like, this is the best song I've ever heard in my life. Some highs and some lows.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Overall, very good.
You guys haven't seen Francois again, have you? After you defeat him in the cave, after him and SQA are yelling at each other like, hey, don't send these freaks over here anymore. He has some line about like, I'm going to follow you to the end of the earth. And so I don't know if he's going to be
I
like...
went back and I said hi to him because I was backtracking to get feet from Minoko.
Oh, okay.
And he was like, go. He was like, leave me alone or something.
Yeah,
I
he
was
doesn't
like, "All right."
really, because I went back there because I was like, there's gonna be something cool in like SQA's pool or something, and there's not really
There's
anything
nothing.
there.
Oh, okay.
So I think that mime was too hard for me the first time, so I did go back. And the little, can we talk about the little are they just called petanques?
Yeah.
Like the guys that run away.
You got 4 turns.
Some of those feel like there's like a game that they're playing that I don't understand. You know, where it's like their defense is just like at like 1,000, and no matter what I do, I can't do anything. And sometimes it's just like they have floating balls around them, and I think you're just supposed to like shoot the balls. But like there were a couple of those where I was like, I don't know what strategy I'm supposed to be using here. They are just super strong.
Huh.
Yeah, I agree. There've been a couple where I've just been like, I don't think I know how to do this one, and I'm just not going to. My guess is, because I mean, it's another one of those, it like flees in 3 or 4 turns or whatever. So I think you just have to have high speed. You have to have like you have to break it quickly and then do the Verso thing where you can reapply break or stun or whatever. You know, you just have to find a way to have more turns because it just simply has too much health.
Yeah.
And I can never get... It has two attacks, and one is when it just kind of lobs cannonballs, and that one is like, okay, that's easy enough to parry. But there's one where it just gives you like a shotgun blast right to the face, and like the timing on that is impossible. Like I just don't. It just stands in front of you for 5 seconds, and then it attacks, and I have no idea how I'm supposed to like get it exactly right.
This is how like half the attacks in the game feel to me, Jacob. They all feel like they just stand there until they're not standing anymore.
Julius Gross writes in and says, in what I initially thought was sarcasm, in the Stone Wave Cliffs, if you want to go back to this part, Gustav says that the Ferris wheel was actually the vessel upon which Expedition 50 embarked on their journey. Lo and behold, once you discover Expedition 50's journal entry, Gustav was exactly right. The journal entry begins with, "Our beautiful wheel." And I could not stop laughing at the sheer absurdity of that scenario of them rolling a giant Ferris wheel across the continent.
It's like the altars or whatever that game is.
Right, yeah.
Do you want to know some real nerdy thoughts on that Ferris wheel?
Hey, what do you say, chat? Do you want to hear it or not?
You want to hear it? I was just like thinking about the Ferris wheel because here's a sequence of events that I know is that the Eiffel Tower was built for the World's Fair when it was in Paris. Like that was like a World's Fair thing. And then the next World's Fair was in Chicago. And they were like, what are we going to do? Paris built the Eiffel Tower, the craziest thing that anyone's ever seen. And so one of the things that Chicago introduced at their World's Fair was the Ferris wheel. Like that's where it came from, was like the one afterwards. And so I was like, is this some sort of like world? Because the Ferris wheel isn't really French as far as I know, but it was just like funny to have it there. But I was immediately trying to think if it was somehow connected to the World's Fair.
We'll know if we see a space needle later in the game.
Did we, World's Fair, is that still going on and nobody cares? Or did we stop doing it at a certain point?
I don't think they're happening. They're certainly not. It's not like that anymore. That's not a...
Wouldn't it be nice?
We're not building monuments anymore.
Expo 2025?
Do they call it the World's Fair?
There's a World Expo in Osaka, Japan.
World Fair sounds
from the 13th of April to October 13th. It's happening right now.
Oh my God, we can go.
That's what counting as the World's Fair then?
Yeah, it's
create the greatest peaks of architecture of all time because that's kind of the
Yeah, what's the point then?
Also, I have been thinking about, and this is just like old French lore or whatever, but like people did not like the Eiffel Tower when it was first built. And then for a while it was like covered in like advertisements, and it was like everyone was like, look at this dumb garish thing on our city. And now it's like the single most powerful icon of a city in the world. But it is funny to be like, people are like, this thing sucks. It's tall and ugly.
You can't even put apartments in it. What's the point? Felix writes in, by the way, I do like, just the little nods continuing of this expedition. Here was their entire path. Here was their overall idea. Was it Expedition 66? Somebody wrote in, they lived the day that SKA poisoned them with poisonous mushrooms, apparently.
Yeah, what the hell was that lore drop? I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
they're all like lying there dead in his pool.
You know how it goes. And was it Expedition 69 that put the handholds in? Is that what they said? Nice. For you along your way? It was pretty nice of them.
Yeah, that was at the one where like they're like, we're finally gonna get out. We just gotta put these handholds here, and then there's two. And it doesn't go any further. They're lying dead there. That was good.
But then I do like in the Serene dungeon area with the accents, like there's some reference as you're like on the flying platform where Verso's like, by the way, you can thank Expedition was like 86 or whatever. They're the ones that actually cleared out a lot of this stuff. I just like those nods to the past of like, hey, you know what? There's a nice guy 80 years ago who did this thing, which is the reason we can do this thing now.
Did all the manual labor.
Right. But Felix writes in saying, you'll find expedition journals in this section. Talks about how installing handholds will assist future expeditions, and it made me realize that everybody in Lumiere is just playing the most high stakes Strand game. True. Kelsey's saying true. Kelsey's saying true. Tan says, brief tangent. They say, I went back and looked at the marketing materials, and all the trailers had Gustav in places and scenes where he was already dead, taking the place of Verso in the final game.
Oh.
So bravo to
Wait,
Sam
really?
Fong
A little
for
Metal
hiding
Gear
it.
Solid 2.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
exciting.
interesting.
Even like the key art of them
Or
looking
did you just
at
not
it.
notice because they look really similar? And so you just
Exactly. Do you really think that there's still the same
I don't know.
guy?
I think so.
I don't know about those two in particular, but absolutely Myel and probably Alicia, but like some, I don't know.
Renmar
I do
too.
think
They're all
after,
Gustav.
yeah, I know. I mean, and
Gustav.
Jacob, you said something about one of Myel's nightmares earlier. Like, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that there's another person in there that is indeed a different person. But yeah, there's a little bit of a, especially in the black and white scenes.
Everyone's
and I
identical.
get that it's a little hard, but like, yeah, you gotta just, I don't know, make people different races or something so you can tell them apart if they're all suffering from same face. You know, it's confusing.
It's a really Unreal Engine 5 meta-human-y looking game where it's like all the faces look great, but it's also like these are being generated by a system and it has like a limited number of parameters.
Yeah. I think maybe CL is taking the longest for me to warm up to her because like something about her facial animations, like there's something kind of dopey about it. A little Mass Effect Andromeda, if you remember those facial animations. Like there's a little something there that's rubbing me the wrong way, but then it turns out she's interesting enough. She blew past it. J. Bog S writes in, says, this might be the most oppressive. Oh, they're talking about the Forgotten Battlefield. When you go there and it's like, you think you've seen piles of corpses? You have not seen piles of corpses until you've seen the Forgotten Battlefield, everybody. So J. Bog S says, this might be the most oppressive environment I've encountered in a game in a long time. Following gut punches and narrative twist, we enter a zone that is littered with like 100,000 corpses. It makes sense that the survivors in Lumiere would have sent an army, maybe several, but none of the journal entries we found to this point prepared me for facing the reality of how many lives have been thrown against the paintress to no avail. A remarkable bit of environmental storytelling on top of the heightened emotions following Gustav's death and then capped by his funeral. I don't think I've been as emotionally affected by any game as I was to this section. So the idea of like, hey,
Kelsey, write this. Got ya.
People feel things. Is the idea when Verso's like, you know, one thing killed all these people, but it went away. Maybe we haven't seen it for a while. Is that the Dualiste boss? Is that okay?
I think so. That was my impression, at least. I feel like games often go overboard with piles of bodies. I felt that way a little here, too, where I'm like, hey, a lot of dead people you could put out there. It's still not going to make like hills like this. I mean, I think like I think it's a cool kind of interesting thematic element that like the bodies don't decay. You know, it's kind of the opposite of the Gommage of like the Gommage. Everyone disappears immediately. And on the continent, everyone's there forever, you know, even if they die. But it's so many. And that Forgotten Battlefield, maybe intentionally, like, that was the place where I was like, this is a lot of combat. You know, when I was like, I was going to every corner and I was getting all the like optional things, but I was just like, I've been fighting these guys for a long time.
I know their moves already. Yeah.
There's an optional area where it's the Falling Leaves area where you can find a journal from Expedition 35, and they have used their bodies to create a bridge. And like, honestly, I had kind of the same feeling there where I was like, okay, but like how? Like they had to like die perfectly so they're not like falling through and then they just get like frozen there. Like someone had to die specifically like leaning half on the cliff and half off the cliff, and then the next guy had to die like right on top of him, just a little over the cliff, a little more. Like I was like, I don't think it was a very like sweet, you know, the note was like, we're really, you know, we're trying to, with everyone's dying breaths, they're using it for the future and carrying on and everything. But it's like, but I don't, think it would work. Like, I don't think
They
you can
lined
make
up
it
in
work.
order of who's the most injured, and they crawled to their allocated places. It makes total sense.
Yeah, you just gotta play World of Goo. It's basically what it's all about. James Welsh says, right before the very cool Dua Lipa fight, Myel finally unloads on Verso.
Dua Lipa, sorry.
The Dua Lipa fight, Myel finally unloads on Verso for acting unfazed by the death surrounding them at the battlefield, and Ciel for going on like nothing happened with Gustav. SGA got off easy. Gustav died while they were looking for his dumb rock. That's true. If I was Myel, but the gas lamp boss, we should look at him. We should blame him more. He was distracting us, and that's also why Gustav died. Like,
His gimmick was dumb too.
No, he
Simon
died because
says-
they were like, this is the perfect time to throw rocks.
yeah, you're right.
Let's just
You're right.
throw some rocks.
Yeah.
He literally gets stabbed or gets the hole blown in him, like when he's mid-sentence about a rock, too. He's like, the thing you gotta remember about rocks. And we'll never know what the rest of the sentence was. If I was Myel, I wouldn't be so charmed when he shouts, time for swim on the world map, talking about SKA. Well, you know, he's pretty charming. What are you going to do?
He's also like the most powerful being in the whole world, they keep telling me, but like use him more then, I guess. Like,
Well, he's
why are
just-
we just letting him swim?
Yeah, there's that one bit where he like took out that giant beast, and it's like, well, you know, he's weird and fickle, and but I like that as a character. It's a little Majin Buu, right? Like you're unbelievably powerful, but like just kind of uncontrollable,
You're really
weird.
silly.
Yeah.
If I was Lune, though, I'd be like, listen, you are going to help us, you idiot, or we will not play with you, we will not get your rocks. And he'd be like, okay, mommy, and then he'd listen and just fight everything for you.
Pour your wine on the floor.
Exactly.
Sean writes in and says the Dueliste boss fight made me realize this was not going to be just an RPG with some button prompts for more or less damage. You have to learn combos and get good to succeed in the game, and I love that. Not having to grind is the greatest gift an RPG developer can give you with this parry dodge system. It's Christmas to me.
I'd be grinding, though. I grinded a little bit in those opening areas.
You can do a
Am I
little
alone?
grinding. You can do a little
Am I
grinding.
alone?
I know it feels
I
like
did a little bit of grinding at the very beginning of the game. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like I didn't really have good tools other than just get good for the first few levels. So
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah. The Dueliste, I know we constantly say, this is pretty From Software, but like when he comes out of the shadows like this, I was like, okay, this is just...
Oh, he looks exactly, I mean, not, but it's like, that is a Dark Souls 3 boss. Like that is just like straight up a boss from Dark Souls 3.
There's a couple moments in this that I'm like, this is just Dark Souls, but did a little different. There, I fell in a hole, and then there was like a fountain guy in the basement of the hole, and he had like the way the lights were around him. He was standing sideways with this big bowl head. I was like,
Yeah.
this is just Dark Souls. He's pretending.
You're Dark Souls in me. Yeah, Simon K is with you, Jacob. They say, just to want to be very clear here, Dueliste is not Renala from Elden Ring, but the boss is actually modeled after Pontiff Sullivan from Dark Souls 3.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the
it.
one. But I love that scene where it's just like, hey, let's just give a cool image of
Yes.
Myel falling off the bridge and like her like, oh, silhouetted in the light, and then she falls into, it's just like blood. It's just like a pool of blood under there. And then the finishing move that they pull off
Yes.
on that boss is some of the coolest shit, where it's just like an Avengers shot of like
Yes.
everyone gets to do their thing.
Yep, it is unbelievable. By the way, Wasteland Hound writes in and says, is the gradient counter the most satisfying move in turn-based combat history? It's
don't
good.
know.
Forgetting to use it.
Yeah, it is.
Forget to use it? When the whole screen goes black and white, you're like, what do I do now?
Well, or you mean like when I can do it on somebody else?
Well,
like
the gradient
1, 2, 3
attack
thing?
versus
No,
the
that's a
counter.
gradient attack.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry.
I
forget to do
also
that.
forget to use gradient attacks. But yeah, the gradient counter, I
Look it up.
don't think it was a necessary addition. Like, I already think they have jump, they have dodge, they have parry. And once we hit 4 different buttons that I have to think about quickly to react with, that's where it started losing me a little bit. And I really struggled with that. I got it on my second try, but I did struggle with that Renoir fight because it has so many gradient attacks in it.
Yeah.
And there were times where I would hit the correct button, or if you dodge first, like you kind of can't pull off the gradient in time because you accidentally hit dodge first or parry first or whatever. And 4 feels like a little too many buttons to have to remember quickly.
Is it more generous than normal? Because I sometimes feel like I shouldn't have got it, but I get it. It does depend.
No, I mean,
on that fight, it was not generous. I had to look up what the timing was for the disappearing one. I had to be like, okay, I need to know, because I'd be hitting it and they would still disappear, and then I would get really mad and I'd be like, I pressed the right button, and then I had to go and look up the timing.
I think the gradient is confusing because time slows down and you don't know like how fast they're going to land it, but the window definitely is bigger, and I think the gradient counter is good because you don't have to counter the rest of the attack string to get off a counter attack.
Yeah,
it's like if someone attacks 4 times and their last one is a gradient, you can dodge all of them or get hit by all of them and just get the gradient, and you still do a big counter attack.
Here's my suggestion then. Get rid of jump. I really do think that 3, because it's kind of the same as a gradient in that you are going to get a chance to counter in it, and it's a more generous window, and there's a very obvious sparkly tell. Just like, how the screen turns entirely black and white. There's a big yellow thing. And I think they should have just combined those two into one thing, because maybe this is just me. Maybe I'm just bad at video games, but 4 buttons just feels like a lot to juggle.
But it's like to be an asshole. It's not 4, it's 3 because you don't dodge and counter are not both necessary. It's like you could only dodge or only counter.
Yeah,
I guess that's true.
I kind of like them sprinkling in new systems throughout the whole thing. When we got to the gradient attacks and gradient counters, okay, we're deep in the game and we're still kind of adding more on top of this, even if it is an extra layer of panic of okay, R1 or R2, which one am I doing here? It's a little extra something.
I do like jump because I feel like I always get away with jump if I jump first, and then there's always enough time for to jump again, and then then you're okay. And if everybody jumps, it's like bop bop bop, triple hit.
Yeah, that feels really satisfying for sure. Charlie S says, I'm enjoying the Dark Souls influence, while it's mechanically evident with tints and flasks, etc. I like the parallel of the expedition logs and the Souls' soapstone messages. It is smart thematically and narratively to have logs of previous attempts, but I gotta say, I kind of miss player messages. How about summoning signs? What a missed opportunity, also, to not have a Poundsmate style summoning system for the previous expeditions. Being able to summon a Picto version of the car expedition to run over some mime? Easy game of the year.
You want Yakuza?
Yes. Once they said that, that is a really good. It would totally fit in the game of ghost car coming by. It would totally work.
How would that fit in the game?
It's a whole bunch of ghosts and crap.
There's
ghosts and crap. Go see
ghosts.
Yeah, it's a bunch of guys with no faces driving the car.
Yes, I can see that cutscene in my mind of summoning a bunch of.
And then before they drive away, they flash a thumbs up and then peel away.
Right.
And then you're like, thanks.
Thanks for using the Ferris wheel.
This game has a really good sense of humor, but I don't. And honestly, sometimes it goes straight into very silly, but I don't know. I don't want to muddy that with ghosts are real. And can attack.
What are the faceless dudes?
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're telling you ghost stories and stuff on cliffs.
I assume those are well, yeah, I guess that's true. But that's different
Victorian
from the dead bodies. I assume that there's not all those things are dead bodies, and then there's alive kind of ghosts with no faces or whatever.
If you could summon the car, we would all want to summon Gustav, and then that would be weird.
That'd be awkward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he'd have a throwing rock
Fire
attack.
Emblem Engage or something. It'd just be all my favorites from the other French games are here, and I can summon them.
It's Raymond.
Damn it, Jake, I was going to say that exact same thing. Lil Rainbow writes that, it says, anyone else notice that old Lumiere, at least in some parts, seems to be on the back of a giant person with a giant golden sword through their neck? They put it how it's just the craziest, wildest designs. This game is so cool, it doesn't even need to dwell on that. It's here's the weirdest, awesome thing. All right.
I didn't even know.
I mean, that's an axon.
Oh,
it's the one that was dead.
Oh, it's the dead axon.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, thank you. I didn't get that.
How does he not know how it died? There's a sword through its neck.
I know how it died.
No one said that Verso was a genius. Let's see. We got Twinkle Toes says, Ben mentioned that the curator being the most terrifying thing you'd ever seen. How did he feel about the other curated looking character in the mansion right before the Renoir fight? Yeah, when they open that door and it's like, hello. Yeah, it just delightfully terrifying. I was more charmed, I guess, by Verso's plan of just like, I was planning on them just opening the door, like
ding dong ditching his own house.
Yeah, exactly. The suckers are over. It's like, wait, this is your plan? Is to wait for Alicia to open a door?
Run into the lobby.
Yeah, exactly. What is this idea, man? And he's like,
how did no one see him? Also, the foyer, like the grass area in the front doesn't have any sculptures or trees to hide behind.
Myel's in some
You'd sit and look out your window all day.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like that Verso is just kind of not that smart. You know,
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
kind of a
dumb.
way where it's just like he's not the brains of the operation, you know, and it's like him being like, we could never take down the axons, and everyone's like, I think we could handle it. Like we fought some pretty hard stuff already.
Crandall says, why is nobody in the party talking about how Verso called Myel Alicia when Renoir was attacking her during the cutscene outside of the mansion? Maybe I'm reading too much into it. I see your face, Kelsey. I register that. There's no doubt. Kelsey, you're not out on a limb for saying there's something weird and cyclical happening in this game.
There's something.
Wow, why do I remember everything I see? This is so weird that I know everything.
I've never been here, but I remember everything.
There was some moment, and again, this is the mystery box, I suppose, but it's a conversation between Myel and Verso where it's kind of Myel is implying that Alicia is his sister, but he never explicitly says that. He later talks about his sister, but I don't think at any point Verso says Alicia was my sister.
Really?
I don't think
I feel
so.
like he said that.
I could be wrong, but in that conversation, it struck me because it's like Myel was kind of plugging that in, like, oh, and she's your sister. And he's like, said something like,
That's like
It
when a
does seem
dude
that
is
way.
like dating a girl on the low and you catch up and it's like, that's my sister.
we're
Maybe.
friends.
Anyways.
We're friends.
Like, who is she to
Yeah,
you? What is that?
sometimes. I mean,
yeah, they're clearly in love. Take that mask off. Let me smooch you. I want to accept everybody. Everyone's a beautiful human being, but when she takes that freaking mask off, I don't want to see that face. It's scary and
How
gross.
dare you?
really?
It's
Like, it's
nasty.
not weird. Every time she takes it off, I'm just like, okay, you've got like bad skin texture from being burned, but she's still like shaped. Like, okay, have you ever seen pictures of people who have had
contour.
like third-degree burns? Like, usually
It's
their
my
face like
wallpaper.
melts. Hers
Yeah.
is still like perfectly beautiful girl shaped, just with a bad texture.
Right. And then he's like, oh, fire hurt her throat, so she don't like talking no more because she was in a bad fire. Is there weird
Better than
explanation?
Quiet's excuse and Metal Gear Solid 5.
Sure. But she looks like in Beetlejuice where Gina Davis is wearing the wedding dress and she like ages really fast. Like it just, I don't know. I don't like to see faces look like that. Call me uptight.
Ben doesn't like uneven skin. Okay.
Ben has unrealistic standards for women's
It's not-
beauty.
you
We
guys
get it.
She's a freak. We can acknowledge she's a freak, right?
I feel like it's very like Phantom of the Opera-y with
Yeah.
the half mask, but the Phantom has the mask covering the part of his face that is scarred.
Right.
And it's like she's just got, you know.
Yeah, she should just
Doesn't
put
he
on
say when he takes
Minoko's
it off, he
mask.
goes, my beautiful sister doesn't need a mask like this? Doesn't he say that?
Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Maybe you're right.
But
Yeah.
also, I think that's right after the part we were supposed to stop at. So that's the cutscene right after, I'm pretty sure.
You're right.
Oops.
It's okay. Yeah, we probably
It's
should have
30
said that,
seconds
but-
after.
It is literally like the next thing
It's
you
a sister. It's a sister.
Okay.
Sorry.
Shut up, Jacob. Okay, well, it's just that one conversation that will throw me off. Mr. Buttons writes in and says, while Gustav's death was shocking, Noko's death after the fight with Renoir hit me way harder. The entire
Did
party.
not care.
Oh, now
neither.
who's the monster?
I did not care at all.
I went, oh, okay, he's a gestural that was hanging
Even
around, I guess.
like SKA seemed kind of sad, but even Minoko, who I think is like kind of his dad or something,
Yeah.
or at least he implies that when he's like, "I'm a
Indeed.
great parent. Yes, you should come with us on this. That's a great idea as a parent." Yeah, I don't know, and especially since they're like, "Oh, he just gets reincarnated." I'm like, "Oh, well, no big deal then."
Wait, no. They say it's a different thing, you know? It's a completely different entity. They're breaking
I'm
it
a
seem that
different
it's-
person than when I was 16. Am I? He's probably gonna be the exact same. Just treat him the exact same way you did the first time he was
Yeah.
growing up, and he'll be identical.
I'm sorry, all Gestrels are kind of exactly the same. They're all just like dumb and like to fight. That is their whole thing.
We're being weirdly racist to Chester.
Yeah, this is getting uncomfortable.
I felt bad in that scene because I just especially because I had done so much optional content, I just kind of forgot that Noko was around. I was just kind of wait, who is this? There are just a lot of them, and so
it also,
I thought Minoko's
There's
speech.
Just a lot of them. It's so funny.
It's I thought Minoko's speech about no, he's not going to be the same was actually I thought that was nice and touching, but it was just kind of that moment didn't hit because I had a moment of wait, this one was more important than the other ones.
Yeah, I don't think they spent enough time making him into a character that you care about for that to have been an affecting scene. And so honestly, when he died, it felt kind of like they wanted to show that they can kill again, but didn't actually want to kill anyone important. It just kind of felt like we took along Noko so that we can kill another person and you can see another death, but it won't actually really matter that much. You can see
death, but who cares? I'm sorry, we interrupted this question. Who loves him? He should probably finish it.
Yeah, everyone was in tears.
I'm sorry.
Well, when he walks up and he's broken, that works. Pizza for breakfast.
No, they were.
That works.
That worked.
They made it sad enough, but I don't it really did just feel like we wanted to have another emotional death and show that death can just keep happening, but without actually doing it to anyone important.
Yeah.
Pizza for breakfast says, this game finally got me to shed a tear, not just choke up. And that's why everybody on this call is a monster. At the camp scene after the fight at the manor, when Noko dies, Minoko comes into frame holding a pot with brushes sticking out, and you realize that every pot you've seen in the game so far is a coffin holding the body of a Gestrel waiting to be reborn. The way he
no, I did not notice that.
Some of them might just have plants in it. I mean,
yeah, but I guess if it's a pot that has, if it's got a brush in it, then that is, I guess,
that's
a Gestrel. The way he handles the coffin, careful but not precious, speaks volumes about his character and relationship to the world. I love Minoko.
That also made me go back to when you're talking to the chief, the chef. And she was like, we all got wiped out once. And then I learned they could get reincarnated. I'm like, okay, so not the worst thing. You guys are, it's still a little sad, but you just all put each other in pots and you'll be fine in a few years when they reincarnate. It's okay.
Yeah.
Not sorry that
they gotta
happened
go to
the
a
Destrals.
river to reincarnate.
It's tough.
There's still 25% of them are still alive. They could just take shifts on going down to the river and repotting.
If you speak... Kelsey Sims writes in, if you speak with Esquier after Old Lumiere, he says, Renoir was not being Renoir, and Verso sounds like he cuts himself off when responding he's not, almost as if there was more to be said. After defeating the first Axon, getting that flash of Renoir as the curator, my mind is spinning. I thought we were going to find out the paintress was his wife, but now I'm wondering if the curator is Renoir, the faceless woman, the manor is his wife, and the Renoir we're seeing is an imposter/alternate version. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's I would say
that's correct.
Yeah, again, there's just something with multiple versions of people or reincarnations of people or something like that is going on here. And yeah, that I had the same thought on that probably means the curator is some version of Renoir.
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, I really liked that moment, a couple of good moments between Myel and Verso in this section. The one where she kind of breaks down in the other way of kind of laughing about oh my God, we're such sad sacks. We just keep crying all the time. Again, it's the tone of the game that I really appreciate. That I think from glimpses of the game from trailers and stuff and demos at GDC even, I was like, this game just looks like a bummer. And I'm so glad that it is, but it knows when to let the air out of the bag a little bit. Is that a phrase?
It's a very funny game.
It is a super funny game. Yeah. But then the other one I really loved is when Verso is playing piano for Myel. And there's that bit where he starts and then she starts laughing and then he stops and does it again. And it's just this little moment where her laughing makes him stop the song and also laugh before starting it up again, where it's that just has to be a little moment during the mocap or something that comes through. It's such a beautifully little human moment. Also,
can we talk about them? So I was like, when they were all like summoning swords, I was like, whatever, it's a fantasy world.
Yeah.
You know, anyone can just summon a sword. But now it's like a canon that it's like they can also summon like a grand piano.
Right.
You know, that they can just kind of like make stuff, and usually it's a sword, but also it can be a big piano or like a guitar or something.
Yeah, they're just Green Lanterns at a certain point. It is weird. I did love that idea of like, hey, we need to make this sword that can pierce the barrier and get to the paintress. The curator can do it. I love that secret of like, oh, this person that's been with us all along, they actually have the secret power. It's very James and the Giant Peach, which I'm obsessed with all the references to James and the Giant Peach that I force into every narrative here. But being like, oh, the silkworm can make this. But
is Escape the Giant Peach?
Yes, absolutely. I thought of that moment too. We're like, oh, we can drink Esquier. It's like, oh my God, it's like they can eat the peach, of course.
Yeah.
But I love that idea too, that it's like, all right, you're going to get this super powerful sword. But on top of that, it's also a sword that Myel can use. Like, I don't know why that just hits me in the gut on gameplay reasons. Like, God, that's so cool. Why not let it be something that I can actually equip? It makes this so much more important than just a key item in your inventory.
Is that still a good weapon? Is that a good weapon?
It's not
really
the best weapon. I mean, it's like,
Okay.
But
it's a good.
okay.
I can't remember what it does, but it was not like my main at the end, and it does kind of have Buster Sword syndrome of like, well, it feels weird to not be using the Buster Sword,
right?
You know, after they told me this is the coolest one, but like this one has higher numbers.
Just not as good at piercing. Villis writes in and says, holy hexadecimal Batman, I saw this mask island in the sea and I noped my way into an hour of side quests. Somehow the island unnerved me in a way that I haven't felt since Silent Hill 2 and 3 back in the 2000s. But I think that might be amplified by the game being very unsettling in a good way in general. Talking about the Visage's Axon dungeon overall kind of freaked them out apparently.
I thought
The crying mask was weird.
Yeah.
This seems like a reference that will be on your radar, Ben. Do you know that
Is it
weird
about James and the Giant Peach? Otherwise, I'm kind of at a loss here.
No, but it is kind of a stop motion thing.
Okay.
It's like that Adventures of Mark Twain claymation short where they talk to Satan.
No, I don't know.
Oh, you should. It would commonly come up if you search like creepiest kids cartoon or something on YouTube in 2009. But it like the way that the masks animated was this weird, uncanny, like I don't know. They were doing things that it didn't quite look like Stone should be doing, but they also were not as expressive as like a person. I just thought it was like, yeah, this is a good level of weird.
I just shouldn't have looked at this video, Jacob. I'm gonna have nightmares now. This is truly Satan.
It's really weird.
Yeah, I do love kind of the big mask guy, like how kind of flamboyant he was and kind of theatrical, and it's like, oh no, it was me all along, all that good stuff. Did anybody try to fight without destroying the individual masks first?
No. I kind of assumed, I don't know if this is true, but like when you're hopping up the islands and there's the 3 different colored islands before you get up to the final boss, I would assume they'd be there if you didn't already kill them or something.
Yeah, so I tried fighting them without killing them, and it was just like a really hard fight, and they were constantly healing them for like 10,000, and I was like,
They
okay, what am I doing?
up there.
Okay.
Yeah, it just got ridiculous.
I killed all of them, and then he was kind of a pushover. Like it was not that hard, and I felt like I didn't actually get to see the bummer about being over leveled is like sometimes I'm like, I bet these guys had like cool attacks that I didn't get to witness.
Yeah. Is anybody, I mean, it's so From Software, I get it, but does anybody else just feel like, what am I doing here when I'm spending all this time in the menu upgrading my strength by 1 or 2, and then every time I power up my weapon, it's like, it jumped from 400 to 17,000. I'm like, okay, well, I assume that's just like light years more important.
You got to do agility. That's the best skill by a mile because it levels up like 3 other things, which I had to respec everybody because I realized how bad I was putting my skill points.
Well, that just depends on what weapon you have.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Agility doesn't.
Well, I haven't switched my weapons like the whole game, so that works out well.
Yeah. So the weapons determine how that scaling happens. So like some of them you'll have like, letter B on agility. And then for that, when you put stuff into agility, it puts a lot of stuff into other attributes as well. But if your weapon has that on like luck instead, then that's the stat that you want to.
Does it stay the same Doesn't it for each character, like if Myel always has letters on agility and might or something, every weapon does agility and might letters, but then Lune may have something different? That's not how it works?
The different weapons have different letter upgrades. Okay.
That's kind of making me never want to switch any of my stuff and spend an extra 30, 40 minutes with freaking menus.
It kind of, the level ups do just pale in comparison to the power of like the weapons and the Pictos. Like you said, it's like you got a Picto that gives you 2,000 extra health. And it's like, what am I doing? I wish that this is a thing that I actually wish was more like in Metaphor, when you level up, they're just like these 3 attributes level up. And it kind of, it doesn't seem, I'm sure that people have created like really unbalanced builds where it's like, oh, it's all in offense or it's all in agility or whatever, but all my characters ended up being pretty evenly like sorted, and I was just kind of like, I didn't need to do this 800 times. I didn't find it a rewarding part of character building. It
is weird when you get like Monoko and it's like, all right, you got 37 of these, go nuts. Like, okay, where am I putting all this stuff in?
I haven't looked at the settings too, so this might be a moot point, but oh my god, this font is so small. I can't believe how small the font is to read the Pictos and organize. I was sitting on my couch and I had to switch over to my portal because I couldn't read. I was like, this is enough. I can't do this anymore.
Oh, interesting.
Wait, how did that help you?
Yeah, switching to smaller screen?
Well, then I saw a screen that's 1 inch from my face.
Oh.
You can't just go up to the... Well, I guess you would have to do that.
I don't want to stand up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay.
Don't be gross.
That's crazy.
The Mighty Ethan writes in and says, I'm probably the only person who's bothered by this or even noticed, but the kerning on the Back at Camp title is so bad. It reads like Back at Camp, and it bothers me every time. Bert Back at Camp. Yeah, I'm totally with you.
I thought it was like a typo the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh, that's funny. They forgot to put the space in. Yep. No, they just picked something with terrible kerning and didn't fix it. That drives me nuts.
But now they can't change it. Now it's part of the game's character. Biscuit says, sure it's convenient they find a camp area that has the same layout wherever they are in the world. How dare you bring up the obvious thing, Biscuit? But yes, that is funny. It's like, all right, you get the idea.
There's a lot of extra room at camp. And as far as I can tell, it's like, there's the curator in that cave, and then there's the dude who has the lost gestrals. And there's not anything else, but there's kind of a big loop that you can run in. And I kept expecting there to be like more put there. And like maybe twice in the game, a character is kind of standing off in the distance in a place you wouldn't expect. But other than that, it's just kind of like there's empty space they're not using.
Huh. Well, they're using it, but just off camera. That's where CL and
that's where they
Verso.
Have sex.
Yeah, that's where she gets inspired, as they put it. And it's like,
I've rejected her twice.
Really?
Yeah.
I want Lune, but it's too
and now
late.
you get the ultimate reward, getting to romance Lune.
Yeah, well, okay, because I play a lot of JRPGs, I was like, okay, there's a romance thing happening. I always have to look up, can you have all the girlfriends, or do you have to pick one and you're going to piss them off if you try to do both,
a lot of guys have also Googled that, yeah.
Yeah. So this is not a game where you can simply have all the girlfriends. You have to pick one. And so they were like, if you want Lune, you got to turn down CL twice.
Wow.
We're so close to being game of the year, too. It's a sin.
But it was funny that it's like, once you have your lovely off-screen romance there, it's like, CL was inspired, and then she learns a new move, but the move is called Doom. What?
By the way, she's inspired if you turn her down too. So you don't even have to.
It kind of makes more sense that she learned Doom after being rejected.
Doom.
I would say kudos to them for not putting weird moans over the black screen if you
Heroic.
do elect to romance them. I can't stand when games do that. I'm like, I don't need this. Please turn it off.
Give me my dignity, my pervert dignity.
Please.
Speaking of weird moans, here's the worst pivot. Did anybody else think it was weird when Alicia, I think it was, when she like touched Myel? I'm trying to remember if it was Caved Face Woman or Alicia, but one of them outside the manor when she like touched Myel, and you could just like hear some guy dying when she was like touching her hand. And I don't know if it was just like Gustav, like the sound of him dying again.
Oh, I kind of was just like, a scream. I'm just so used to death in this game. I didn't really think about it too much.
I was like, that's just happening over there.
Right. You get
dying.
Just trying to make some stupid bridge again or something. Capsulon says, so much imagination on display in this game. The spotlights around the Mask Keeper were unlike anything I've ever seen. Yeah, we shouldn't gloss past these. I think both the accents are just awesome, weird designs. It's such a great point in the game for like, all right, you have to fulfill these 2 little quests before you can pierce the barrier. And both of them are just wildly creative and really fun creatures to unpack.
I loved seeing the dancing one, like Journey style through the columns of the huge Colosseum I'm venturing around, and she's just like doesn't care about me. She's just vibing and dancing, and you just have to see her for a few hours before you kill her.
The music in her arena, but also like the directional audio. There's just like it is the ultimate like flexing the audio in this game, which is already on a super high level the whole time. But like, yeah, all the music in that place and how it changes as you go through it. And actually, this is my most like how was this game made on this budget? When you're in the Serene's arena, and there's that optional giant sewing robot.
Yeah.
That it was like, you see this thing once, right? And it has like completely unique attacks and looks so cool and would be like a highlight of any other game. And
it'd be
like,
the final boss optional in any other game.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. So we all fought that, right? Because there's a moment where I'm like, Verso said we should attack it. I don't know if I trust Verso, but I
haven't been killing any of the nice Nevrons. Whenever they're like, it seems like it's vibing. I did kill it, Kelsey, because Kelsey gave me a hot tip and said I should do that.
I think that is the one that gives you the anti-charm picto, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
which is like
needed it.
Yeah.
Kind of mandatory for beating that boss. And honestly, Serene was probably my least, or Serene or whatever, was my least favorite, only because it was basically like almost impossible if you didn't have the can't be charmed picto.
Right.
And it was like really easy when you did have that. And there wasn't like, I didn't feel like that was I had a lot of fun in that fight. I just didn't think it was like a well-balanced one. It's like either this is really, really, really hard or a cakewalk.
I wish they had done a kind of system-y show-off thing like that early game to show you the power of pictos, so that moving forward you'd be like, wow, pictos really changed the game, because then maybe I would have cared about them more in my first 15 hours than, oh my god, everything's killing me, I guess I'll sit down and read these now finally sort of energy. And then maybe Serene would have been more of just like a straight-up hard fight, which is kind of what I wanted to, Kelsey. Like as soon as I had anti-charm on all 3 of them, it was like 6 or 7 shots and she was dead.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
John Skovic says, I had a great moment in that Serene area that married the gameplay systems and story in a really cool way. Early in the area, through exploring, I found a new picto called Anti-Charm that said you can't be charmed. I was already close to what seemed like the boss when I found it, but I put it on Verso, and I doubled back to do the 4 battles to unlock it permanently. I then put it on everyone, assuming the boss would use Charm. Then, when the cutscene hit, everyone was charmed by Serene except for Verso, who resists it and snaps everyone else out of it. It fit perfectly with how I had him learn it, then teach it to everyone else. Plus, it came in handy in the fight. Yeah, nice. Ideal. What a delightful little thing. Yeah, do their eyes have to turn black when they're like, we like to dance? That. It's terrifying, yeah.
They're like, the colors of their eyes got big, and then it turned black. And I was like, ew, that's like not the way that media usually shows like eyes getting weird. It freaked me out.
Seventh Heart says, Serene's area is the first time in a long time the game has properly made me feel exactly what the protagonists are supposed to be feeling. The music of the region and the focus on pretty costumes, elegant dance, and general beautiful spectacle really created the sense of wonder we were told Serene toys with. Usually in media, I'm used to being reminded in other ways that the monster making us feel good is actually bad. There's often something else in the environment that makes it feel twisted and wrong. Even as I killed Serene, however, I wondered if killing her, if she was really that bad. I did love the detail where Verso's like, do not go near the edge. Like people have like jumped off this edge to try and get closer before she is that alluring. Stephen Toth wrote in, by the way, saying like, oh yeah, Siren, the Odyssey, obviously is what they're working with there.
Did you guys find, I can't remember for who, but like you can find the Siren dancer outfit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I think I got the hair. But that was it.
Oh yeah,
I got the hair and the outfit, and I don't remember. Were those
for
mimes?
Lune, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
The hair was mimes.
But it's like there are just kind of like oh, this is a fun costume. It's way too silly for me to put on in this very serious game. But I like having
I definitely turned on. Oh, yeah. I turned on the, like, take off the costumes and wear regular clothes and cutscenes thing, and that has been life-changing because everyone can still have baguettes, and it's fine.
That's smart.
There were actually... I
they
kind
had
of
sunglasses on during the eye stuff, and I was like, I think getting impacted slightly.
Deal with it, shades. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of them I liked, where I was like, you know what, they've been out here long enough that this is what they're wearing. Where I gave like Lune the like white outfit, and then Verso for like most of the game I just had in like a white shirt rather than his kind of like expedition outfit. And so there were some that I was like, you know what, this is my headcanon for the character. But yeah, the nice. Goofy ones were too much. But did you guys do the always up or only up challenge? Like the really big one.
It was divisive in the community. Some people loved it and some people absolutely hated it.
The people who hated it fell.
The Gestural Beach platforming.
Oh, no,
Super
I don't
Mario
do platforming in this game because it's bad platforming. Why would I want to do that?
That's the charm, Kelsey.
The rest of this game is really good. I'm going to play the good parts.
It was giving me Chained Together energy.
Yes. Yep.
It reminded me a lot of that, of just like, whatever assets we have, put them in a pile, climb that.
Yeah, the secret is like, it's not that. It's like, it's pretty easy. Like, I think I fell like twice. Like the platforms are not far apart and the jumping is weird, but it's like got a pretty awkward or a pretty generous like climb up on this thing when you grab it. But the best part is, so it's like there had been other gestural beaches where you got like a swimsuit for like CL or whatever. But when you get to the top of this, you get a swimsuit for Monoko, and it is fully like a Speedo. And so you can just have Monoko in a Speedo running around.
Perfect.
Speedo.
Alan D says, as someone who picks the silliest cosmetic options in the game, I got very excited to find out that the gestural troll hair was an unlockable option.
Yep.
Well, if you want to be a freak, I can't get away from the core looks. Every time I do like a challenge or I go in the manor or something and I find like something with clothes, it's like, or hair. It's like, oh god damn it! Like I don't want this to be the payoff. I understand for some people it's like the most important thing. Are you rocking like
the white outfits though? That's like the normal outfit, but just cooler looking.
No, give me the base ass vanilla everything, please.
Every time I find a merchant and all they're selling is cosmetics, I'm like kind of bummed.
Yeah,
like oh okay.
Buy all those. They're good.
I do, but yeah, kind of bummed.
The hair, I think you can change, and it doesn't like. I think a lot of the hairstyles are just good. Yeah. You know, like my Myel had like a kind of short bob for like the whole game because I just felt like that fit her vibe better than her kind of like long thing. And like Verso can get kind of like a samurai little bun that I also think looks really good. Like the hair is not or there are a lot of them that aren't silly. That is just like. Change the character a little bit, but then there's also troll or a little beret in your baguette.
I was for a while I was like, is this a glitch? What's going on? But I realized, I had a picto on that put inversion on, and with that, like their colors are kind of all wonky.
They look like they're wearing
blackface.
Yeah.
Even outside of combat, like walking around?
No, just in combat. Just in combat is when it popped
sorry.
through. Yeah, I was like, is this glitching? What's with Lune's hair?
I put a half pony on Lune, and then the little teleporter pads in the dancing area that like move you around. It like the physics for her half pony weren't very good for some reason. So every time I went on a teleporter pad, it was like, it was like freaking out. It looks so stupid. Please proceed.
Okay, yeah, I got a good one. Silly Goose writes in and says, axe on, axe off. Am I right? Hell yeah, Silly Goose.
Nice.
Hell
yeah, brother. Yeah.
Shit, yeah. Smoke them if you got them.
Did you guys think it was fun that Verso was like, there are 3 axons, but one's in the mountain, so we can't get there. So these are the 2 we got.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
I just thought it was fun that there's 3, but it's 2.
Yeah.
But there's actually 2. Yeah. This does a lot of... I don't know. It does a lot of cute things with JRPG tropes. Like even just the beginning of this section where, Eskia is like, "Oh, we gotta find my rock. Where is it? Oh, it's just right over there."
Yeah.
Like it's not like a grand adventure. It's like we just gotta follow this way. It's fine.
Yeah, it's never gonna frustrate you that much. What it is interesting how much Verso's like you guys can't beat the axons, are you nuts? Even with this la 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 Lumina converter, and it's like, oh, they're not that bad. Tied into the idea, follow-up point about like, it's interesting how he's kind of latching on to like, yeah, the disaster expedition indeed. I guess we're signing up for this one, the disaster expedition. Is he just saying that they're all disasters? This seems like the least disastrous one so far.
This one is objectively successful.
Right.
He's probably just been burned so many times that he's trying not to set himself up for another sad loss.
Is it just that this one has Myel in it, which seems to be the secret sauce that's throwing Renoir wild? It's his catnip. And so that's what makes it the disaster.
It also just seems like, it's hard to tell, but it seems like most expeditions were larger by the time everyone died and kind of at once. Like, this is like, it started with a ton of people and it's just been kind of like 3 or 4 people mucking their way through and somehow surviving this whole time, whereas the other one seemed like it was like, we had a group of 18 of us and we all ate mushrooms and died, like just it was like cartoons. A much bigger group and the disaster happens all at once.
Right.
Imagine going all the way over there, surviving the beach, getting on and eating mushrooms and dying. That's so embarrassing.
Did we talk about this one? Yeah, did you guys see the one where they were cooking and eating the Neverons and they died from that?
Yeah. They threw up and then they died.
Yeah, and the thing is like I told everyone this was a bad idea, and like around all these dead bodies, there is a Neveron sitting in a cooking pot, like oversized, overflowing over this cooking pot. It's, I don't know, some of these expedition deaths are very. Some of them are kind of funny.
They're very like Darwin Awards.
Yes.
Well, we ate the poison mushroom and we all got poisoned.
Yeah. The roller skating expedition isn't going well. Whoa.
Ferris wheel one. Hello.
What do you guys think about the, how do you pronounce it? The Grandies, the Grandis, like those other creatures where it's like, oh, those are like other species who survived the fracture. They were kind of in the snowy area, the big boys.
Oh, yeah.
Why can't I?
Yeah,
they're cool.
That was so. Yeah, they were cute, but it was just like it felt like that was building up to something, and then you see them for 5 minutes and leave and never talk about them again.
Oh, those so guys.
Far,
the Gorons.
Yeah,
when it introduces Gorons,
they look like the Yeti from Twilight Princess with like the rock head. That's what I thought.
There's just like those dashes of trying to understand what is the ecosystem, what are these different species that I really like. Like even at a certain point, CL's like, I think SK might be an alien. It's just like threw that out there, like he might be from another world. And everyone's like, okay, I don't know, moving on. It's like it's a fun dynamic. Evan R says, why is one character able to use tarot magic and another is able to use chroma well as she does? Maybe I missed the background on this, but it feels like the character classes were created by the devs to give each character a unique feel, but their overall purpose in the world is not really established. Yeah, that is true. Like, as cool as it is that everybody's so different, they don't really have conversations about, at least so far, at camp about just like, what is with those cards? What is happening, CL? How are you able to do this?
The conversation should be Myel be like, you guys heard about virtuoso stance?
Yeah. If you just put your feet like this, it's like 200%. Believe it or not.
Yeah, but I think it's just like it's their tattoos. That they all like they established that like that's where the powers come from, and it's like they all just got tatted up as different classes.
Oh, okay, gotcha. What?
Is that why I'm talentless? Because I have no tattoos.
Yep, and that's why Kelsey can fly with one wing on her shoulder, kind of a Sephiroth style.
One-winged angel, baby.
There it is, baby. And look, and I bet Sephiroth regrets only having one wing as well. When he was 18, he got that one wing, and it was a bad idea. Kevin Anderson writes and says, I think performances in the game are incredible. In particular, the eye animation stood out for me. There's a lot of subtle eye movement during a lot of the cutscenes, especially when the characters are scared or surprised. I noticed it especially when with Myel, when she was experiencing her traumatizing moments. I really appreciate the effort that's gone into it. I feel like shots of Myel go, then you'll love this section of the game. I think she looked stupid when she was mourning, you guys. Ha ha ha.
Stupid idiot.
I do think that's another like metahuman thing. Like that's like when they're showing off Unreal Engine demos, they show off like micro eye movements, which is one of those like these are really hard to animate, but everyone's doing them all the time, and you don't really realize they're missing until you see them, and suddenly it looks way more like an eyeball than anything else.
Right. Spencer P writes in, says, I love everything about the game, and it's so pretty, and the voice acting is amazing, but hot dang, is the lip syncing awful. I don't know if it's a UE5 thing or what, but it always feels
They're
like
speaking French.
And then it's
right.
Well, I wonder what they animated to.
I don't know if it's lip synced to French.
I can't imagine.
I feel like it might be.
No,
I don't think it is, because they paid all of their money for the American actors, or
That's
the English speaking actors.
It's just
on
that
Side
bad.
Story, the Austin Walker's video game podcast, someone said that the lip sync was programmed to English, but even with English, it doesn't seem 100%.
Wow, they were getting a really good pass for me because I was like, oh, the French game is French and I'm just English.
Tech Beatnik says, I'm absolutely in love with the cinematography on display during some of the cutscenes of the game, especially the black and white 4:3 aspect ratio filming for Myel's scenes of terror, creating a trap feeling, as well as the end of Act 1, barely lighting the antagonist in the background of Gustav and Myel's interaction, the antagonist, adding a palpable tension to the scene. This must be the first game that has me thinking of the shot composition adding to the storytelling in such a powerful way. Oh, yeah.
There are other games that do that. You can think about it in other games.
Really?
But it is really good in this.
That is true.
They're going to make
Man's
a
only
film,
seen
right?
Lost Baby. This is giving me real Lost
How
Baby.
dare you go after Tech Beatnik? Yeah, they got the rights for it to be a film. I wonder if it's like, would it be better as a TV show where they could just constantly have new seasons of different expeditions if they really wanted to? But I'm curious to see the
feel
film.
like
For
that's-
sure.
I love this game. Like, sometimes when things are good, you just need to let them be good and then be done and be like,
But
that
then
was great.
how will more money get made, Kelsey? The season 2.
I
Last
feel
of
like
Us
it just got.
was
I mean,
bad,
does it
but
have?
made money.
Does it have a director, or was it just like optioned? Did someone just like buy the rights
I
and
think
were like
so.
maybe one day?
Probably
Yeah.
optioned. Yeah.
Did we already make the joke that it was Sydney Sweeney that did it in the last episode? I think we did, but let's just make that joke again. That she's going to play Monica or whatever. Rick writes in and says, "This is the point of the game where I felt completely overwhelmed by Pictos. I definitely think they could have done with half the overall amount. I spent too much time swapping them out for new ones to learn without actually learning what Picto effects I enjoyed and wanted to keep. Yeah, is anybody else feeling overwhelmed?
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
There's a lot.
I mean, I think that I'm probably not doing everything exactly the best optimized, because there's some that I'm just like, honestly, there's some I read and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to stack things in a way to make that useful. I'm just going to ignore that one.
Yeah.
Like basically anything that has to do with marking. Like marking is very useful, and there's a lot of things it seems like you can stack that way, but you have to, I don't know. Maybe I just wish there were better filtering options rather than just offense, defense, and support. Maybe like anything that mentions burning, anything that mentions healing or something like that would be a nice way to.
That's what I do. I just picked a word. I was like burning, and then I just like went through until I had everything that encumbers burning.
What I did start doing, but not until like way later than I should have, is filtering it by active and filtering it by cost. Because it's like often the really kind of character defining ones just cost a lot. You know, they'll be 15 or 20. And so you can pick like 2 of those and then be like, okay, everything else will kind of be around this. And when it's active, you can just be like, okay, what do I want to turn off to get like 2 more points? And it's easier than kind of having to scroll through all of them. But even then, there are a lot of them, and there should be some better system.
B Mercury says, I really love the small quality of life choices they made, like not having new Pictos weapons and skills lose the yellow dot showing they're new unless you hover over them for a full second. It annoys me scrolling through a list trying to find whatever new item in other games and accidentally scrolling too fast and losing it again. This is a small little detail. That's what the deepest dive is all about. Thank you for writing in with that one, B Mercury.
The Pictos also stay like white until you learn them too, which is a nice way to remember which ones are new. And they only kind of get like the outline around them to make them glow once you've learned them.
Yeah. Super handy. Hey, just to jump back in time, I think it's in Old Lumiere. Was anybody else confused by that scene where Madoko's like, I'll get through this barrier, and then he just kind of like blows up?
Nukes.
And then suddenly it's just like Lune and Ciel and him like on their own.
And he's really upset. He's like, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that was, I'm just overthinking it, but I was confused. Like, wait, what happened? Now everyone's just separated. What is going on here? It's a good reason, I guess, to separate people.
He dug through a building and the building fell down on them.
Okay.
Like it was like he was like, I'll clear a path, and then he went through really fast, and then everything like collapsed, and they were somehow stuck on different sides.
Okay, got it.
Lune was way too chill about it. She like came over. She's like, "What the hell?" And he's like, "Sorry." She's like, "All right, let's go." I was like, I'd scream at him for 20 minutes.
That was interesting playing as Myel by herself. For like, there was one, I forget what it was. There was some like Picto that was glowing, and there were like 3 enemies around it. I was trying to like kite them to try and like get that without having to fight them.
Oh, like, when she's alone?
Fighting just as Myel, I was like, this is scary. This is an intense, fun dynamic just to try.
That's the only time I left something behind, because you climb up and then you can't get back down unless you like go do the whole area again, I guess, once you get everybody back.
Right.
I just didn't have the patience to do it.
I can hear that. Darkfish Days says, the weird looking Pictos from Lumiere can be completed. In the Justro village, there's a merchant in the bazaar that says he found similar Pictos not too long ago. They combine the Pictos, which turn into an upgraded version of the augmented aim. The main function doesn't change. Both versions deal 50% free aim damage, but the speed stat bonus upgrades from 22% to 39%, and the critical rate from 4% to 5%. Anyways, I love that Myel's second arm weapon is just a wood arm. A lot of arm stuff. No doubt about it. Big into arms in this game.
And feet.
That is true, but not human feet. Very important. He's only into
feet.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess Minoka has no thoughts on Lune's feet. Interesting.
No, he doesn't want to polish them.
Yeah. I thought there was a line somewhere that was don't. I think Verso said something like, "Don't worry, it's only for Nevrons," or something.
Yeah, it's not human feet. Yeah. Yep, exactly. Gabe CP says there's something going on with a body or a brain that I haven't quite worked out yet. We have the Nevrons, which is French for neurons, major boss axons, which is a part of the neuron, and a goal of going after a heart that is supposed to be near the middle of the map. And the 2 axon bosses seem to represent emotions and creativity or movement. I'm wondering if the paintress will turn out to be some Gaia type manifestation of the planet or something.
Oh, yeah, I clocked that the 2 bosses are like artists, like acting and dance.
Yeah.
She's a paintress, but I didn't clock.
Oh, I didn't clock that either. You guys are smart.
No, you guys are. Thank you, community. Sincerely, Eric writes, I really thought this would be mentioned in the first episode of The Deepest Dive, so I did not include it in the comments at the time. But with how much this game is in love with Final Fantasy, I feel like it's worth mentioning. Did anyone else catch in the Gestrel Village where 2 of the Gestrels are talking about the card game they play, and it's called Double Dryad, which is a reference to Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII. I thought it was a lovely nod to the franchise.
That's nice.
Only the finest. Only the finest. That is it for community comments submitted on Patreon. Thank you, everybody, for unloading your brain over there with all of your fine comments. Is there anything? Yeah, all of your Nevrons. Has anybody had a thought that they haven't shared yet on the Deepest Dive for the middle section of Clair Obscur Expedition 33?
I love Minoko.
This game's good.
Yeah, we haven't, I guess, shared that. I mean, love going up for the game?
Oh, yeah, I like this game the more I play it, for sure. Which is damning.
So
good praise.
Damning. Kelsey, be honest. Is there anything...
Kelsey crying again.
I'm not bringing it up
today, man.
No,
he's just calling me a liar. He's like, usually you lie, but be honest for once.
You're a crying liar with tattoos you regret. But do you think this is going to be your game of the year?
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, I think that this is going to be very, very tough to top this year.
Yeah. I'm kind of feeling that way too. I feel like this is probably going to be MinnMax's game of the year, if I had to be honest.
What about GTA 6, you guys? I made that joke last time.
That's true.
Just kidding.
I mean, I don't know, Jacob, you finished it. Do you think it's going to be our game of the year?
I look. You know, I don't want to.
Come on,
these conversations always feel a little whatever, but like if another game comes out this year that I like more than this game, hell of a goddamn year.
Okay, we're eating good.
Yeah, can I just say, I am so excited for the next episode. This one felt, when I was setting the stopping points, like I think they're right, but like this one's like comparatively light on narrative compared to like the things we are going to have to talk about next time. And I'm just really excited for that.
Okay, so it's not a spoiler to say that in the next one there is a lot of optional end boss stuff. Like if you were just to gun it for the ending, it's not
like from beating the Axons to the very end, you could probably do it in like 4.5 hours.
Interesting.
Ow.
Would it be a spoiler to get your take on suggested level before you go to the painteress? Do we want to know that or no?
You could probably do it now. Like she's whatever. Like
okay.
It's you could do it, and then the optional super hard stuff remains.
Is there, just to calibrate
Jacob
for everybody.
Is treading so well.
You're doing a great job. You're treading
like crazy here. Yeah. We're all impressed.
Let's get wet. So is it a lot of is the optional stuff just like here's a big boss that you can fight? Yeah. Or is it like narratively we should make sure to like comb the map before we finish the sucker?
You should. I would say the most important things is that reach max bond with all the characters. There is kind of each person will get kind of a loyalty quest-esque thing as part of their max bond, and those are the best narrative spots.
Okay.
And then there's a bunch of just like other stuff you can do around the map. But like if you get everyone to max bond, you'll have done a lot of the cool stuff.
And dumb question, can you do that just by triggering camps on the world map again and again? Or like outside of narrative beats, what's triggering?
Yeah, if you just go back, I don't know exactly how it works, but like if you're just going around and talking to people fairly often, it'll get there.
Okay. I assume we have to at least start going towards the next thing at some point to kind of start triggering all of these other optional things though, right? Like going to the next thing we do after this is like, all right, we can go to the paintress now. Like, I assume you can go there and it'll like warn you before, hey, this is the end. And that's
you'll get plenty of warnings before it's like point of no return.
Awesome.
Got it.
All right, everybody, we are collecting your comments on Patreon. If you want
hold on. Let me rephrase that. You will get some warnings, point of no return, when you are doing the next story quest, but it is not the ultimate point of no return.
Okay.
So,
like,
interesting. It'll tell you it's the point of no return,
I think
but
Minoko says like, hey, we should make sure we're ready, but that's more of just like there's a big battle coming up, and not like you won't be able to do anything after this.
Okay, that's good.
Does the game explicitly say when you do this, you won't be able to do anything else?
Yeah, and it's very clear when you're going to the final boss. Like of the whole game.
Okay.
That's
excellent.
What's happening.
Great to know.
Good game design. I appreciate that.
All right, everybody. We're collecting your comments over at Patreon. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. If you jump in there and support us at any tier, you can submit a thought, a comment for us to read in our next discussion, which is going to be happening in a couple of weeks. We are collecting your final comments on May 30th. So if you're scrambling, you're catching up, you got time. May 30th, we're collecting your comments on everything in this game. And then that first week of June is when the new episode will be dropping. Probably on that Monday or Tuesday, June 2nd or 3rd is when it'll be up on YouTube and in the bonus podcast feed. So again, if you had enjoyed this conversation, if you've gotten a kick out of it, if you appreciate people diving in this deep on a game that you probably also love, if you're listening this far, you can support this stuff directly. Just give us a tip and get an awesome game as a little trade here. So jump in and support us on Patreon before this coming Monday, May 26th, and we'll DM you a Steam code for Spirit Swap Lo-Fi Beats to match 3-2. A lovely little puzzle game. Pokemon Puzzle League, but with spells and sexy gay witches is the overall theme there of everything going on in Spirit Swap. Oh, Haley, have you not seen the characters in Spirit Swap, Haley?
I have. I've seen them.
All right, I've seen them. But there we go, everybody. Thank you so much for this mission, for giving us good stuff along the way to read. We greatly appreciate it. Kelsey, Jacob, Haley, thank you for being good troopers along the way. And that is it.
Seems good.
For the second chunk, no doubt about it. We'll be back in a couple weeks for the grand finale, and Jacob can finally let her rip on everything he's wanted to say since day one. That's it, everybody.
And I could be so wrong about all of my predictions.
Any final predictions? Has anybody got any final predictions before we close out
Everything Kelsey said is right.
But
y'all have been predicting.
I know, but it's vague. It's kind of, vague cycle stuff,
SK is God.
SK is God.
And then we have to fight and kill God, so
okay.
SK is the final boss.
So,
the end.
Paintress and then Renoir? Is that the boss order here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
don't think it's the other way around? I think it's the other way around.
It'd be interesting if it was.
Oh,
I think he'll be in blocking
Paintress
her.
Is the final. Yeah, Paintress is
don't
the final
touch her.
boss. Is too obvious.
Yeah.
It's probably like your faceless mom or something. Whoever that lady is.
Yeah.
Specifically Ben
Probably
Hansen's
Gustav.
faceless mom.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. Clearly got her genes. Okay, that's it for the deepest dive, everybody. We'll be back in a couple weeks. Goodbye.
Bye.
Au revoir.
If you like what we're trying to build here at MinnMax, we could use your support on Patreon, and if you jump in at even that $2 tier before this Monday, May 26th, 2025, we will DM you on Patreon with a Steam code for the great game Spirit Swap Lo-Fi Beats to Match 3-2. Imagine like a Pokemon Puzzle League, Tetris Attack, Panel de Pon, but with spells thrown in there. It's a fun puzzle game, and it's great in head-to-head competitions if you're a puzzle fanatic. So get a great indie game, support independent games media. All you gotta do, patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. $2 tier, jump in and get it. Thank you so much, everybody.